Chapter 1557. A cool breeze accompanied the drizzle. It landed on Lin Yuan and the Mother of Bloodbath. It also landed on the woman's phantom formed by the fire elements of the lava field. Although this woman's phantom looked 70% to 80% similar to the Mother of Bloodbath, but it was still formed by the fire elements. When the drizzle landed on this phantom, it turned into mist. The mist was quickly evaporated by the fire elements. The high temperature caused the space around the woman to slightly distort. The woman's phantom stood motionless in front of the Mother of Bloodbath. Lin Yuan thought of a legend. The Moon Empress had once told him this legend. It was said that when a fae was strong to a certain extent, even if it died, the energy in its body would still persist. It was its last wish. At this moment, the woman's phantom stretched out her hand and gently hugged the Mother of Bloodbath. It was probably the last thought of the celestial jade spider. It was the Mother of Bloodbath's newborn daughter. The Mother of Bloodbath, who was being hugged by the fire elemental phantom, deeply experienced the feeling of a mother. This feeling was not as deep as the feeling Shuai gave the Mother of Bloodbath, but it was more exquisite. The formation of the woman's phantom squeezed out all the fire elements in the entire lava field. It was equivalent to directly changing the environment of the lava field. The eyes of all the creatures in the lava field gathered in the direction of the woman's phantom. The changes in the lava field immediately attracted the attention of Bronze Furnace City. The lava field used to be a forest. Because of the death of the celestial jade spider, it became a land filled with fire elements and frequently opened abyss-dimensional rifts. It could be said that the lava field changed the entire industrial layout of Bronze Furnace City. Every year, a large number of contractors who contracted fire-type faes came to settle in Bronze Furnace City. It could be said that the lava field had changed. It had a great impact on the entire Bronze Furnace City. Of course, the Mother of Bloodbath did not know about this. There were already a large number of fire-type faes in the central area rushing over here. Any fae with some intelligence would know this. There must have been a change here. It was very likely that they would obtain an opportunity. Faes with higher intelligence could sense the Mother of Bloodbath's identity as a favored spirit. On the other hand, those faes with lower intelligence no longer cared about the consequences. They rushed directly toward the Mother of Bloodbath. He disturbed the Mother of Bloodbath from feeling the warmth of a mother's love. Before the Mother of Bloodbath could make a move, Lin Yuan had already launched an attack. There were no outsiders here, so he did not hold back at all. He directly displayed Xiao Hei's exclusive skill, Spiritual Essence Explosion. Pure spiritual energy gathered in his left fist. Black wings spread out behind Lin Yuan. The acceleration brought by the wings made his figure so fast that it was blurry. In addition, he had superb combat skills and movement techniques. In just a moment, Lin Yuan had returned to his original spot. As for those faes that rushed over, Lin Yuan ruthlessly punched each of them in the head. They all fell to the ground. Lin Yuan's method shocked many of the faes that were preparing to attack. It had also stimulated the ferocious nature of many faes. These faes immediately swarmed over. Just as Lin Yuan was about to make another move, the ghost fire thorn spider, which had just been accepted as a disciple by the Mother of Bloodbath, scuttled out of its hair. The body of the will-o-wisp spider was covered in a layer of demonic red and blue flames. The two colored flames encircled the spider's body. It formed a sinister and terrifying ghost face. The palm-sized will-o-wisp spider was like a bullet. Penetrated all the faes that attacked. The faes that were penetrated by the will-o-wisp spider quickly burned with red and blue flames. The red and blue flames directly burned these faes into shells. The burning of the faes' bodies caused the red and blue flames to burn even more vigorously. Finally, the red and blue flames were completely absorbed by the will-o-wisp spider. The ghost face formed by the flames on the will-o-wisp spider's body. It spat out a thick purple flame tongue. It directly crashed into a Diamond 6/Fantasy 4 Grand Fire Terror Lion. In Lin Yuan's opinion, this thick purple flame tongue had already reached the limit of a Diamond/Fantasy breed fae. As long as it was a little stronger, it could reach the standard of a myth breed fae. The Grand Fire Terror Lion was unable to resist such an attack. Soon the Grand Fire Terror Lion was roasted into charcoal by the purple-red flame tongue. Then a large amount of red and blue flames gushed out of the Grand Fire Terror Lion's body. They were absorbed into the will-o-wisp spider's body. Seeing this scene, Lin Yuan could not help but admire the will-o-wisp spider's talent. The will-o-wisp spider's exclusive skill was Plunder Burning Flame. Plunder Burning Flame. When the target is stained with the Plunder Burning Flame, as long as the target's energy level is lower than the Plunder Burning Flame's energy level, it will be converted into the Plunder Burning Flame's energy. Under normal circumstances, the petite will-o-wisp spider that existed as an assassin would have a lower energy level. The energy level in its body would be lower than most fays of the same grade. Fortunately, the Land of Lava's mutation had saved this will-o-wisp spider's talent. But even after the mutation, the will-o-wisp spider was still inferior to Lu Shuang's main fae, the exquisite dragon lizard. Even the walking wizard snake that Lu Shuang had carefully nurtured had reached Diamond X/Fantasy V. The will-o-wisp spider might not be comparable. However, the will-o-wisp spider was smart enough to launch a sneak attack. While it was sneak attacking those fays that were weaker than it also dealt a blow to those fays that Lin Yuan had defeated. Through the exclusive skill Plunder Burning Flame, the will-o-wisp spider constantly increased the intensity of its red and blue flames. Finally, it used the ability to stack the red and blue flames into poison fire. They fused together and gave birth to the fire poison energy. With just one attack, it instantly killed the Grand Fire Terror Lion that was not much weaker than the will-o-wisp spider. The will-o-wisp spider used this combat method. It could be seen as a special combat type fae. The longer it stayed on the battlefield, the more targets it killed. The more powerful it was, the stronger it would be. Of course, there was a limit to this enhancement. That was the limit that the will-o-wisp spider's body could withstand. Apart from that, the will-o-wisp spider had an exclusive skill, Fire Spirit Essence. Fire Spirit Essence. Consume the body's dual-colored flames to separate a special insect protein. Through the insect protein, the fae can quickly recover its energy, stamina, and stimulate the soul to fight. This exclusive skill might be pitifully weak on its own. It was an exclusive skill that reduced the fae's attack method and recovered stamina. However, when paired with another exclusive skill, Plunder Burning Flame, it had a miraculous effect. The will-o-wisp spider's exclusive skill and ability combination. It was no wonder the Mother of Bloodbath had set its eyes on it. The will-o-wisp spider could constantly hunt down fays that were weaker than it to strengthen itself. However, a myth breed fae had already run out of the Land of Lava's inner circle. Chapter 1558. Even if this fae had just evolved from a fantasy V to a myth breed. After the world cleansing, its life level had increased. It was difficult to use talent to make up for it. Moreover, most of the fire-type fays in the Lava Land had bloodlines that had been enhanced. Their talents were extremely powerful. Therefore, the will-o-wisp spider and the mythi lava terror claw bear fought. The red and blue flames made the lava terror claw bear howl. The golden red fur of the lava terror claw bear had a fever. However, it could not injure the lava terror claw bear at its core. At that moment, the lava terror claw bear opened its huge mouth and let out a roar. It wanted to mobilize the fire elements in the air, but the lava terror claw bear discovered that the fire-type energy in the lava land had been squeezed dry by the woman with the crown on her head. The lava terror claw bear could only mobilize its own fire-type energy. It prepared to unleash a bear king claw strike. The lava terror claw bear waved its claws agilely and tore through space. The power of space was mixed with the violent power of fire. If it hit the will-o-wisp spider, which had weak defense, it would be able to cut open its stomach. Just when the lava terror claw bear thought that it was about to kill the will-o-wisp spider, a majestic shout rang out. Then the Mother of Bloodbath's hand shook. A chain made of light directly bound the lava dread claw bear tightly. The lava terror claw bear instantly lost control of its body. The flow of blood in his body had already firmly controlled his body. Then the lava terror claw bear was horrified to discover 3 huge hornless dragons with bright red horns and blood-like scales. They snaked out from the woman's dress that seemed to be made of light. Each of them was nearly 100 meters long. One of the hornless dragons was heading straight for the lava terror claw bear. The dragon horn pierced into the lava terror claw bear's chest. The lava terror claw bear instantly lost consciousness. But all of this was just the beginning. The Mother of Bloodbath immediately used its funeral of light. Through light energy, it controlled the lava terror claw bear. Before the lava terror claw bear was burned dry by the light energy, it would become a puppet under the Mother of Bloodbath's control. The mother of Bloodbath was not sure if the soul thought whale could collect its current soul. This momentary enjoyment of motherly love was interrupted. The fire attribute phase that had arrived all stared at their mother's projection with green eyes. It was obvious that it wanted to absorb the fire element within the phantom. This made the mother of Bloodbath furious. You bastards who have always been blessed by your mother, it's fine if you don't know how to be grateful. Now he even wanted to hit on his mother. Thinking of this, the mother of Bloodbath's emotions instantly exploded. Then a long spear appeared in the mother of Bloodbath's hand. Right at this moment, a delicate voice sounded from afar. "Leave this to me." Then, a middle-aged woman in a red dress appeared in front of the mother of Bloodbath. First, it bowed gently to the mother of Bloodbath and the woman beside it. Then the woman pulled out a red hairpin from her head. Then he held the hairpin and said softly, "Soul return." Everything boils. Immediately after, the woman's face was covered with triangular scales. It was obvious that these scales were snake scales. A cry came from the woman's mouth. A colorless poisonous mist was spat out from the woman's mouth. The woman threw the hairpin into the poisonous mist. The hairpin quickly dissolved in the poisonous mist, dyeing it crimson. Then the poisonous mist spread out. All phase below Myth 2 were contaminated with this poisonous mist. All of them were like wax figures quickly dissolving. In the blink of an eye, their originally strong bodies flowed into meat soup. All the fays that coveted the woman's projection were cleared by the middle-aged woman. This was the second time Lin Yuan saw a Myth 3 Fae use body weaponization and soul return. After the middle-aged woman used the killer move, she restrained the aura on her body. She bowed to the mother of Bloodbath and said, "This servant greets the lady." The mother of Bloodbath looked at the middle-aged woman with an undiminished aura. Feeling the mother of Bloodbath's hostility, the middle-aged woman hurriedly explained. Sensing the mother of Bloodbath's hostility, the middle-aged woman hurriedly explained. "Miss, I'm a poison fire centipede with an extremely ordinary bloodline. When I just broke out of the eggshell, the lady happened to perish." While speaking, the middle-aged woman looked admiringly at the woman's projection beside the mother of Bloodbath before continuing. "I've been blessed by the lady since I was young. My talent has mutated and my strength has increased rapidly. My strength has already reached the peak of Myth 3. Milord, I can no longer repay you. If Miss doesn't mind, I'm willing to follow Mississippi. Firstly, I can report this matter to you. Secondly, I can be a servant and help Miss a little." The middle-aged woman looked at him in disgust. The phase that had turned into meat soup and fused with the soil said, "Don't worry. Miss, there are two types of spiritual objects here. The first type are the natives of the lava lands who have been blessed since birth. One is a fire-type fae that migrated to the land of lava because of its environment. These fays only treat the land of lava as a treasure land and want to constantly plunder the land of lava's resources. The reason why I'm here now is because the others are guarding Bao Yen. That treasure rock has always been regarded by us as Lord's incarnation. Not long ago, a few foreign fays found helpers and wanted to snatch the treasure rock. Now those outsiders have been stopped while we're all injured. We killed the few fays that were leading the pack. They shouldn't be coming for a while. Miss, are you going to take a look at the treasure rock? From the moment we sensed your aura, we decided to follow you from now on." Upon hearing the middle-aged woman's words, the mother of Bloodbath's heart trembled slightly. To the mother of Bloodbath itself, in essence, it did not like those fays that had transformed because of the nourishment of its mother's flesh and blood. This was because the growth of these fays was equivalent to gnawing on its mother's flesh and blood. However, the middle-aged woman's words did not make the mother of Bloodbath angry. Instead, he was very touched. Lin Yuan looked at the middle-aged woman's sincere expression. He thought of those fays that were guarding the treasure rock in the core area. Lin Yuan had a deeper understanding of what it meant for fays to value favors. That treasure rock was most likely formed from the Sky Corona Jade Spider's spider leg. It was a great supplement for any fire-type fae. These fays had guarded this treasure rock for generations out of gratitude. Now they were more willing to use the rest of their lives to serve the mother of Bloodbath. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the mother of Bloodbath speak. "I want to watch Lin Yuan grow from now on. It was my mother who turned into the land of lava and I still have my father. When the time comes, I'll talk to my father and let you all become non-staff members of the Heaven's Blessed Mansion." Chapter 1559. When speaking, the mother of Bloodbath was very honest. At the same time, the expression on his face was exceptionally grateful. Regardless of whether the treasure rock that had been guarded for so many years truly contained his mother's soul. However, these fays had transformed because of their mother's flesh and blood. He was indeed using his own way to protect and appreciate his mother. The middle-aged woman was shocked when she heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. Then he opened his mouth wide in shock. The middle-aged woman's thoughts were simple. The reason he chose to do this was because he wanted to repay the debt of gratitude. He didn't have any other thoughts. However, he did not expect the mother of Bloodbath to arrange for them to stay in the heaven-blessed abode. He became a non-staff member of the heaven-blessed mansion. Although fays would develop greed when facing the favored spirit that was weaker than them, the favored spirit would not be able to resist it. He wanted to seize the opportunity of the favored spirit. However, among all the fays, the heaven-blessed mansion was an incomparably sacred existence. It represented the fays' greatest faction in the origin world. The internal members of the Heaven's Blessed Dojo were always the Heaven's Blessed Spirits. However, there would be many spirit items added to the Heaven Blessed Guest Hall. He became a non-staff member of the Heaven Blessed Mansion. This was the lifelong goal of many fays. The threshold to become a non-staff member of the Heaven Blessed Mansion was extremely high. He had to be at least a creation breed in order to have a chance. Among the spiritual creatures guarding the treasure cliff, his strength was considered relatively strong. However, the middle-aged woman still did not believe that she had the qualifications to become a non-staff member of the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. The mother of Bloodbath was making arrangements for the middle-aged woman. Actually, he had his own thoughts. These fays were following him to repay his mother's kindness. If he allowed these fays to join Sky City, when these fays were assigned missions, they might not have any complaints. But when working together with other white-clothed followers, fays were unruly and unwilling to be disciplined. It was inevitable that there would be disputes with the white-clothed followers. This was because there were no contracted fays. For example, the mother of Bloodbath had relied on its own abilities to comprehend willpower runes and contend with heaven and earth. Their temperaments were usually extremely domineering and unruly. Xianxia had become Lin Yuan's protector. Afterward, she would stay by Lin Yuan's side. He handed these people over to his father and let his father deploy them. It was also equivalent to increasing the strength of Lin Yuan's side. He also saw Blood Beginning, Blue Lotus and White Phoenix's mother of Bloodbath. He was now a member of the Heaven's Blessed Dojo. The mother of Bloodbath felt that Lin Yuan would definitely become a Radiance Envoy. When Lin Yuan became a Radiance Envoy, it would be the same as standing at the heart of the main world struggle. If the entire Heaven-Blessed Mansion could stand on Lin Yuan's side at that time, it would undoubtedly be of great help to him. It was said that a married daughter was like spilled water. The mother of Bloodbath was still a little spider waiting to be married. However, his mind was completely on Lin Yuan's side. Lin Yuan saw the fire elemental energy in the mother of Bloodbath's shadow show signs of overflowing. He knew that this was because the celestial corona jade spider's wish had been fulfilled. These fire elements that had lost their obsession were about to dissipate and merge with heaven and earth. Lin Yuan hurriedly suggested to the mother of Bloodbath. Mother of Bloodbath, the fire elemental energy here is showing signs of overflowing. In another 20 minutes it will begin to disperse. It will completely dissipate within 2 hours. Try and see if you can absorb the fire elemental energy in this phantom. If I don't absorb it and use it, the energy will leak out. That would be a waste. The mother of Bloodbath shook its head gently. His celestial corona jade spider bloodline was of the light attribute. This phantom was filled with fire elemental energy. The mother of Bloodbath could not absorb it. Blue Lotus had already told the mother of Bloodbath the secret of the sky corona jade spider bloodline. Therefore, only his father Xianxia was the most suitable person to absorb the fire elemental energy within this phantom. Xianxia was the weakest among all the hall masters of the Blessed Dojo. However, Xianxia, who had become an eternal sovereign, had become a great sovereign. His foundation was already solid. As long as he absorbed the energy that was compatible with his own origin, his strength would increase rapidly. Xianxia's celestial sundial jade spider bloodline came from the Jade Gui. Yugui had sacrificed all of his bloodline to Xianxia at the critical moment of life and death. Thus, the fire elemental energy within this phantom was the same source as blood beginnings. After absorbing the fire elemental energy in this phantom, even if Xianxia's strength couldn't reach the peak of the eternal realm, at the very least he would be able to improve by a large margin. In just a few hours, the mother of Bloodbath already knew that her father Xianxia was Xianxia. He was an affectionate person. This phantom looked like its mother and contained the fire elemental energy within its mother when she was alive. This fire elemental energy allowed the mother of Bloodbath to sense its mother's aura. It could also allow Xianxia to sense his wife's aura. Based on the mother of Bloodbath's understanding of Xianxia, Xianxia understood the situation. Not only would he not absorb the fire elemental energy within, he would also try his best to gather the fire elemental energy that was about to dissipate. He would also use his own fire elemental energy to nourish the fire elemental energy within the phantom. This was all so that this phantom could be maintained for a longer period of time. Xianxia was very powerful. In the beginning, it was not difficult to maintain the stability of the fire elemental energy within the phantom. However, at every moment, there would be its own fire elemental energy being consumed. As time passed, the fire elemental energy within Xianxia's body would be constantly overdrawn. Overdrawing for a long period of time was very likely to cause Xianxia's recently stabilized rank to fall from eternal to immortal. The mother of Bloodbath understood a principle since it was young. That was, the dead were gone and the living could reminisce. If it really could not do anything, it should not be too difficult for itself. The mother of Bloodbath took out its cell phone and dialed Xianxia's number. However, the mother of Bloodbath did not directly reveal the situation of this phantom. Instead, it released its exclusive skill, the external blood bone, which had condensed into 3 hornless dragons. They stood guard beside the phantom. These 3 hornless dragons had combat strength comparable to the mother of Bloodbath's main body. It was enough to protect the fire elemental energy within the phantom and prevent other fire-type fays from thinking about it. The mother of Bloodbath gave Lin Yuan a look. Xianxia had just come out of the Radiant Moon Palace. He saw his daughter calling him. At the foot of the Leaning Moon Mountain, he softly chatted with the mother of Bloodbath. The mother of Bloodbath had not brought up any topics. However, in the face of his long-lost daughter, even listening to the mother of Bloodbath's breathing, Xianxia also felt very satisfied. Blue Lotus and White Phoenix were still in the Radiant Moon Palace. They continued to talk about the Tower Cannon with the Moon Empress. After the Moon Empress consideration, since the Heavens Blessed Dojo and the Tower Cannon were enemies, the Moon Empress, Blue Lotus and White Phoenix exchanged information about the Tower Cannon. Chapter 1560. At that moment, Lin Yuan, the mother of Bloodbath, and the middle-aged woman had arrived at the core area where Bao Yan was. When he got closer, he suddenly realized something. The aura of this treasure rock was exactly the same as the aura of the woman's shadow. Perhaps it was even thicker. This treasure rock looked like a small section of a spider's leg. This small section of spider leg protruded out of the ground, nearly 20 meters high. Apart from the middle-aged woman, all the other fays in this place had the middle-aged woman as well. There was also a humanoid myth-breed fay with 2 broken arms and 1 broken leg. He was about to fall to the ground. The other fays that were unable to transform into human form were also severely injured. When these fays saw Lin Yuan, they clearly revealed vigilant expressions. However, after seeing the middle-aged woman and feeling the mother of Bloodbath's aura, the woman's expression changed. The fays quietened down. A look of admiration appeared on his face. Lin Yuan waved his hand and released the Diamond X/Fantasy V Jasmine Lily. The Jasmine Lily spun gently. The bud of mountain jade at the tip quietly bloomed. There was a green stalk in the middle of 3 white flowers. He spat out 3 torrents of life energy. The 3 torrents of life weaved into a huge net of life. All the fays had become a node in this huge net. The end of the life web converged on the humanoid myth-breed fay that had lost 2 arms and 1 leg. That humanoid myth-breed fay was already in despair. As a volcanic foxrat fay, it originally only had 4 limbs, but it was a volcanic foxrat. But because of the battle just now, it had lost 3 limbs at the same time. Even if he could get treatment in time, the volcano foxel would also lose its ability to move forever. As far as the volcanic foxrats knew, their limbs were broken. There was no possibility of recovery. Only those amphibious myth-breed fays would die after their limbs were broken. Only then would it be possible to use its own super regeneration talent to regrow its limbs. Even if it was a fae with super regeneration talent, it would not be able to survive in the amphibious fae category. Even so, it was only a minority. However, the volcano foxel didn't expect this. When the flood of life poured into his body, he felt a chill run down his spine. The cells in his body were instantly activated. A large amount of blood rushed to the 3 severed limbs. The life force in the torrent of life nourished the severed limb and actually activated its own genetic model. It allowed the limbs to regrow. After a short while, the volcanic foxel was shocked to discover something. His broken limbs were regenerating bit by bit. A huge surprise filled the volcanic foxrat's heart. Even if he was fated to be born, it had been very difficult for the volcanic foxrats to reach this stage. Protecting the treasure rock had become the faith of the volcanic foxrats. The volcanic foxel was willing to sacrifice its life for this. However, the volcanic foxel also hoped that it could survive. Moreover, he didn't live like a cripple. Otherwise, if someone had designs on Bao Yan again, he would lose his ability to fight. He could only watch helplessly as Bao Yan was snatched away. After being healed by Lin Yuan, these fays bowed toward him. To express his gratitude, these fays had a question in their minds. The person who helped him just now seemed to be a fool. Why is he talking to the air? Furthermore, what he said involved the soul. How strange. The soul thought whale was a legendary spirit creature. It would only appear when Lin Yuan and Bai Lan fused together, allowing others to see it. Usually when Lin Yuan summoned it out, it would not be able to do so. Only Lin Yuan could see the figure of the soul thought whale. Under Lin Yuan's instructions, the soul thought whale used soul not. It began to filter the souls collected near the treasure rock. A huge battle had just happened here. Many fays had perished. Therefore, no matter how the soul thought whale filtered, it would only get those fays that had just died in battle. Lin Yuan could clearly feel it. There was an aura similar to the woman's shadow inside the treasure rock. However, the soul thought whale's soul not could not directly explore inside an object. Therefore, he wanted to see if this treasure rock contained the Jade Grey's soul. He needed to destroy this treasure rock. Lin Yuan couldn't make a decision on his own. He looked at the Mother of Bloodbath. The Mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan's gaze and saw him make a smashing action toward the treasure rock. The Mother of Bloodbath was stunned. After pondering for less than 3 seconds, the Mother of Bloodbath made a decision. The other fays were dumbfounded. The Mother of Bloodbath reached out and broke off a human-tall stone at the tip of the treasure rock. At the same time, Lin Yuan immediately let the soul thought whale use soul knot. At that moment, Shuo realized that something was wrong. The Mother of Bloodbath had said that she had something to do with Lin Yuan. Now she had called him and talked for a full 8 minutes. But she hadn't said anything serious. Moreover, there was a feeling that there was something hidden in her words. Shuo immediately confirmed that the Mother of Bloodbath must have encountered something. Shuo couldn't help but feel anxious. Little Qing, where are you now? I'm done here. I'll look for you immediately. At that moment, the Mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan's face reveal a sunny smile. He nodded heavily to himself. The Mother of Bloodbath, which was suppressing its worries, suddenly burst into tears and flowed down like a mountain torrent. Lin Yuan didn't comfort the Mother of Bloodbath. It had been suppressed for so long. It really needed to vent its emotions. When Shuo heard the Mother of Bloodbath suddenly cry, he panicked. As a father, Shuo subconsciously thought, could it be that Lin Yuan bullied the Mother of Bloodbath and didn't want to take responsibility? The more Shuo thought, the more anxious he became. He heard the Mother of Bloodbath say with a sobbing tone, "Dad, Lin Yuan helped to search for Mother's soul in the land of lava. Mother still has a chance to be resurrected." The Mother of Bloodbath's words made the anxious Shuo on the other end of the phone. He stood there in a daze for a long time. A 9-foot man was squatting on the ground at the foot of Radiant Moon Mountain. He happily hit the ground with his hands. The corners of his mouth clearly wanted to curl up, but the sourness in his heart and the sadness of parting. All sorts of mixed emotions surged in his heart. It forcibly suppressed the corners of Shuo's mouth. Tears of the same temperature as the Mother of Bloodbath. They flowed out of Shuo's eyes as he held his head with both hands. The Mother of Bloodbath could clearly feel the change in its father's aura. The Mother of Bloodbath could imagine how happy Shuo was at this moment. But time waited for no one. There were still 7 to 8 minutes left before the fire elements in the phantom dissipated. The mother of Bloodbath hurriedly said, "Dad, come to the land of lava now. You will be able to sense my location when you reach the land of lava. Mom is here. She left something for you. If you don't come and collect it, this thing will spill into the world." Chapter 1561. As soon as the mother of Bloodbath's voice fell, an anomaly appeared on the sun in the sky. The people who caught a glimpse of the sun in every corner of the origin world suddenly discovered that, on the sun overhead, spider-like patterns actually appeared. The next moment, Xianxia's figure emerged from the sunlight of the lava land. The spider pattern on the sun also disappeared at this moment. Everyone thought that they were seeing things. Xianxia, who had just arrived at the land of lava, immediately saw the figure of a woman with a corona on her head. At this moment Xianxia opened his arms in a daze. His body suddenly grew taller. It only stopped when it reached the same height as the woman's silhouette. Then Xianxia's enlarged figure reached out and gently embraced her. The woman who had just hugged the mother of Bloodbath was now being hugged by Xianxia. It was as if there should have been a baby in the whirling years. It appeared in the arms of Xianxia and the woman's shadow. Under the meticulous care of Xianxia and the illusory woman, she was like a princess. To live a happy life in the world. It was an arachnid fae. Like the mother of Bloodbath, Xianxia was not good at expressing his emotions. However, Xianxia's emotions had already reached the point of insanity. It could be said that in recent years, the main theme of Blood Beginning's emotions had been sadness. Ever since Xianxia could remember. All the joyful emotions added up couldn't compare to what he felt today. Today Xianxia had found his and Yu Gui's lost child Xueqing. Furthermore, the child had acknowledged his identity as his father. More importantly, Xianxia actually heard that there was a chance for Jade Gui to be resurrected. Xianxia found it hard to believe. Because Xianxia had seen Yu Gui die with his own eyes. Before he died, he even extracted his bloodline. But Xianxia believed in his daughter. There was no way he would lie to her about the Jade Gui. Xianxia's tears fell on the silhouette's hair. A faint mist rose from the ground. At that moment, one of the 3 hornless dragons spoke. "Dad, hurry up and absorb all the fire elements that Mother left behind. I'll need your help to collect Mother's soul later. Dad, I know you don't want to absorb the fire elements Mother left behind. But if these fire elements are not absorbed, they will be wasted. Daddy, only by becoming stronger can you protect me and Mother when we encounter danger in the future." Originally, Xianxia had not intended to absorb the fire elemental energy. Instead, he planned to use his own methods. He stored the fire elemental energy, even if it would affect him. However, the mother of Bloodbath's comforting words pierced Xianxia's heart like an awl. That's right. If he was strong enough, how could he have looked at the 5 pages of truth helplessly? He launched a sneak attack on Yu Gui when she was giving birth. How could he let his daughter go missing? Everything that had happened was because he wasn't strong enough. Now 2 of the 8 pages of the Pagoda Canon were about to enter Radiance. The Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's envoys would come to the Radiance Federation to observe the ceremony. He had just conversed with the Moon Empress in the Radiant Moon Palace. Xianxia could sense that the Radiance Federation was a sleeping lion. He had already bared his fangs at Ta Dian Station. The whale ocean trade must have been the needle that had awakened Hui Yao, the lion. Therefore he needed to be strong enough. Only then could he protect his daughter. Then he looked forward to the day when his wife could be resurrected. He thanked Lin Yuan for his kindness. According to the mother of Bloodbath, it was Lin Yuan who had helped collect the Jade Gui's soul. Lin Yuan had saved the mother of Bloodbath's life several times. He had also allowed the mother of Bloodbath to successfully awaken the favored spirit's bloodline. If the mother of Bloodbath hadn't triggered the sun phenomenon when it had transformed into the favored spirit, Xianxia wasn't sure if he had reached the Radiance Federation. Whether he could find the mother of Bloodbath whose bloodline had yet to awaken. Apart from his daughter's favor, Xianxia had to repay Lin Yuan. He also had to repay Lin Yuan for resurrecting his wife. However, Xianxia felt that even if he did it in front of Lin Yuan, he had disassembled himself and turned his entire body into spiritual materials. It was far from enough to repay Lin Yuan. Furthermore, the Jade Gui had been the Heaven's Blessed Dojo's second hallmaster. Lin Yuan had resurrected the Jade Gui, which meant that he was the benefactor of the entire Heaven's Blessed Dojo. Only God knew how happy big sister Ziqing would be when she found out. Feeling the phantom in his arms, the fire elements began to dissipate. Xuexua's body was suddenly surrounded by reddish-gold flames. The sunset bathrobe draped over Xuexua's body. Xuexua's red hair was dyed gold. His eyes, one red and one orange, ignited with a glazed flame. The fire elements in the woman's phantom came from the same source as the fire elements in Xuexua's body. At this moment, the fire elements in the phantom were like young birds flying into the forest. All of them entered Xuexua's body. The aura in Xuexua's body suddenly rose a few notches. The eternal aura on Xuexua's body grew stronger and stronger. The sun in the sky seemed to be celebrating this moment. The cotton candy-like clouds in the sky, under the light and heat emitted by the sun, evaporated. They were all evaporated. Everywhere, even if it was raining just a moment ago. At this moment, everything became a sunny day. At this moment, the mother of Bloodbath, who was using the external blood bone to check on Xuexua's situation, discovered something. On Xuexua's neck, a magnificent sun totem was climbing up his face. The sun totem's climbing process was like the sun's rise. This kind of totem was not an imprint on the body. Instead, it was a kind of condensed light and shadow. At this moment, the mother of Bloodbath saw Xuexua turn his head. His fingers gently tapped on the horns of the 3 hornless dragons. Then on the bodies of the 3 scarlet blood hornless dragons. Suddenly, the same sun totem as the one on Xuexua's face climbed up. 3 layers of sunset bathrobes draped over the 3 scarlet blood dragons. This made the 3 scarlet blood dragons look extraordinarily ferocious. It also added a hint of elegance and brilliance. "Dad, what is this?" Xuexua answered the mother of Bloodbath's question and explained softly. After the Blessed Spirit ascends to the Eternal Realm and reaches the 3rd of the 12 cycles of the Eternal Realm, the Blessed Spirit can then use the Blessed Spirit. Under normal circumstances, the Blessed Spirit can only be used once every 10 years. However, these 3 hornless dragons formed from your venomous fangs are in essence just 3 fangs. I've split the divine blessing into 3 portions. It's been applied to these 3 scarlet blood dragons. The Blue Lotus's blessed spirit is a blessing with auxiliary functions. When it was used for Lin Yuan, it made the water elements extremely friendly to him. Even the most violent phase that used water elements as their source energy would not attack Lin Yuan. Such blessings did not have much practical use to Lin Yuan. Not only will my blessed spirit not help Lin Yuan, but it might also increase his burden. It might even increase Lin Yuan's burden. That's because my divine blessing consumes the bloodline energy within the Blessed One's body. This might be due to my scarlet tarantula bloodline's effect on the Blessed Spirit. Chapter 1562. A look of reminiscence appeared on Xuexua's face as he spoke. He pondered for a moment before continuing. My blessings are different from your mother's, Jade Gray's. However, this change has also made my divine blessings attacks even more powerful. These 3 hornless dragons are wearing sunset bathrobes. It has the power to burn undying. It's just that every time it's used, it needs to absorb the sun's energy to recharge. Daughter, within 10 years, you won't have to be afraid of any beings below the undying realm. In these 10 years, I will think of a way to help you reach the immortal realm. Parents love their children, so they must have a long-term plan for them. Even though it was Xuexua's first day finding the mother of Bloodbath, he still had a long way to go. However, he had already begun to plot for the mother of Bloodbath. How pitiful parents are. Xuexua's words echoed throughout the entire Fey world. And no one dared to tell their children. It was a pinnacle mythical Fey that could allow its offspring to never become a creation breed within 10 years. He directly broke through to the Genesis tier and finally became an immortal tier cultivator. Furthermore, there were no Fays that could help their children transcend 2 major grades. He wanted his children to use their mythical bodies to fight against the immortal enemies. Xuexua's promise to the mother of Bloodbath required him to fulfill it within 10 years. He kept running around for it. Perhaps this was Xuexua's silent interpretation of fatherly love for the mother of Bloodbath. Upon hearing that, the mother of Bloodbath's eyes couldn't help but sting. The mother of Bloodbath said softly, "Dad, come with me. Actually, you don't have to be so tired. It'll be great if you can accompany me more often in the future. Perhaps the most urgent thing for the Mother of Bloodbath now was to increase its strength. The Mother of Bloodbath felt that Lin Yuan was more like its path protector if it did not improve its strength. He was the one being protected. But now, the Mother of Bloodbath, which had received Xianxia's blessing, could fight an immortal expert head-on. In the short term, he could already take on the responsibility of Lin Yuan's path protector. Moreover, Lin Yuan's subordinate Bai Yan had reached the peak of immortal realm. Even if the Mother of Bloodbath's strength had been enhanced through the heavenly blessing, it would not be able to defeat the Mother of Bloodbath. However, he still couldn't compare to Bai Yan. Thus, the Mother of Bloodbath had no choice but to face reality. Within a year, the Mother of Bloodbath had seen Lin Yuan walk step by step from zero to where he was now. 10 years, even if he really became an undying. Who knew what level Lin Yuan had reached? Therefore, instead of letting his father run around everywhere for him, it was better to use the eternal strength to secretly protect Lin Yuan. In this way he could always meet Xianxia. Xianxia heard the Mother of Bloodbath's words. A loving smile appeared on his face. Although he did not say anything, Xianxia had already decided to do so. However, Xianxia's thoughts would soon be changed by Lin Yuan. He followed the hornless dragon formed by the Mother of Bloodbath's blood and bones all the way to the center of the lava field. Xianxia immediately saw the spider-legged Bao Yan. None of the people present had seen the true form of the Jade Grey with their own eyes. However, not only had Xianxia seen it, he had even touched it. Therefore, Xianxia was certain that the Bao Yan was in the shape of one of Xianxia's legs. However, Xianxia also knew that this treasure rock wasn't really formed from the Jade Grey's spider leg. Presumably, it was a part of the Jade Grey's soul that had been nourished by the fire element transformed from its body. Slowly it melted into the rocks here. Finally, because of the soul's form, it changed the shape of the rocks. The soul that Lin Yuan mentioned should be collecting the remnant soul in the Jade Grey and the Bao Yan. In Xianxia's opinion, this remnant soul could only be a thought. Even if it gathered, it couldn't be considered resurrection. However, just this thought alone. To Xianxia, it was already a treasure that he could cherish for the rest of his life. At this moment, Xianxia heard Lin Yuan say to him, "Uncle Xue, this Bao Yan is harder than Xueqing and I expected. I still need you to break this Bao Yan. Only then can I collect the soul in this Bao Yan." With the strength of an immortal, Xianxia could keenly sense it. There was a living being beside Lin Yuan. This living being was constantly filtering and screening the surrounding souls. This discovery secretly shocked Xianxia. Xianxia was able to discover this living being precisely because it was constantly mobilizing the souls. Otherwise, to Xianxia, this living being, it was a living being that could become completely invisible. Looking at Xianxia's expression, Lin Yuan didn't have to use his ability to fuse with blue. This would allow Xianxia to directly see the Soul Remembrance Whale. The Soul Remembrance Whale was of great importance and had already become an important trump card for Lin Yuan. There were so many fays here. Lin Yuan couldn't expose the Soul Remembrance Whale. However, Lin Yuan didn't mind explaining to Xianxia. Uncle Xue, although he doesn't have much combat ability, but he can use spiritual materials that contain soul power to nourish the remnant soul. And finally, the remnant soul will become complete. It's just that for the soul to awaken its memories, it needs enough remnant souls. When Xianxia heard Lin Yuan's words, he was stunned again. Then he rushed to Lin Yuan's side in ecstasy and lost his composure. Jade Grey's remnant soul can become complete and awaken its memories? Is it true? Is that really true? Lin Yuan couldn't help but roll his eyes. The Mother of Bloodbath had clearly said over the phone that Auntie Jade Grey could be resurrected. Uncle Xue, you heard it. Auntie Jade Grey's soul will not be complete. It won't awaken its memories. What kind of resurrection is that? Uncle Xue, you're an adult. Can't you be more mature? However, Lin Yuan could understand Xiaoxia's feelings. If his parents could be resurrected now, Lin Yuan would probably be just as excited and lose his composure. However, Lin Yuan and Chu Xi didn't have such luck. Xiaoxia was now hearing such shocking news. What he needed the most was an affirmative answer from Lin Yuan. That's right, but the prerequisite is that there are enough remnant souls in this treasure rock. Otherwise, it's very likely that Auntie Jade Grey will lose part of her memories after resurrection. Of course, these memories are the fainter ones in Auntie Jade Grey's mind. Just like you, Xueqing, and the Heaven-Blessed Dojo's Hall Masters. It's impossible for Auntie Jade Grey to forget. When Shuai heard that, he bowed to Lin Yuan and said, I really don't know how to thank you. For the rest of my life you'll be asking me to do things that will definitely kill me. For the rest of my life you'll be asking me to do things that will definitely kill me. I'll do it without hesitation. The soul of a myth-breed fae could already condense into a physical body. Jade Gui, which had become eternal, could naturally do the same. As long as Jade Gui's soul could condense and obtain its memories, even without a body, Shuai and the Mother of Bloodbath's family would still be complete and happy. This was something that Shuai wouldn't even dare to dream of. If it were in the past, Shuai would definitely not bear to break this treasure rock that had fused with Jade Gui's remnant soul. But now Shuai stepped forward. He reached out and crushed the treasure rock into dust. Shuai crushed it very carefully. He was afraid that this fae beside Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to extract all the soul power in the treasure rock. This was because Shuai still remembered Jade Gui's greatest wish before her death. It was to take a look at his daughter. After the soul thought whale had identified a type of soul, it could release a waveform through the whale's brain. Could search this type of soul. Soon, the soul thought whale gathered all the Sky Corona Jade Spider's remnant soul through its soul knot ability. However, during the search, Lin Yuan's brows were tightly knitted. Chapter 1563. Every time the spirit thought whale searched, it would find the remnant soul of the Sky Corona Jade Spider. However, the remnant souls that he had collected were too weak. In the end, a large number of remnant souls gathered together. However, he couldn't even draw out the shape of the Tiankui Jade Spider. Now Shuai was about to crush more than half of the spider-legged treasure rock. Based on this progress, Lin Yuan felt that, in the end, the soul thought whale used its exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth. He consumed a large amount of spirit materials to repair the Jade Gui's soul. Yu Gui's soul should not have been able to retain too many memories. Even Shuai and the Mother of Bloodbath might not be able to remember them. Both Shuai and the Mother of Bloodbath were looking forward to their wives' resurrection. One was looking forward to his mother's resurrection. Both of them were looking forward to the reunion of the family of three. Such a fact might be cruel. However, he had to tell Blood Beginning and the Mother of Bloodbath. Because there was no way to lie about such things. From the moment she saw Lin Yuan frown, Shuai and the Mother of Bloodbath's hearts jumped. He thought that something had gone wrong. However, they did not dare to ask Lin Yuan. He was afraid that he would delay Lin Yuan from commanding the soul thought whale to search for the soul. At that moment they heard Lin Yuan speak. Uncle Blood, Mother of Bloodbath. I have something to tell you. You have to be mentally prepared. Auntie Yu Gui's soul fragment is too small in this treasure rock. It's so rare that it can't even form a soul. Even if I eventually complete Auntie Yu Gui's soul. When you see Auntie Yu Gui's soul again, she might not remember you anymore. The Mother of Bloodbath's expression collapsed. But Shuai did not. Shuai had never thought that Jade Gui could be resurrected. This was because Shuai did not expect Lin Yuan to have a way to restore the remnant soul. In the Heaven's Blessed Mansion, there were many objects that had been contaminated by the aura of the Jade Gui. Just like the silk handkerchief in Ziqing's hand. It was after Yu Gui's death that big sister Ziqing came to the lava field. He used the method of gathering souls. She gathered all the souls in the land of lava into the silk handkerchief that the Jade Gui usually used. That silk handkerchief definitely contained many of Yu Gui's soul fragments. At that time he just needed to ask big sister Ziqing to bring the silk handkerchief over. Just let Lin Yuan command the fae to absorb it. After Shuai explained the situation, Lin Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. The Mother of Bloodbath's face was no longer depressed. The Mother of Bloodbath turned around and spoke to the fae guarding at the side. Go to the inner circle of the lava fields. If anyone comes to the core area to investigate, remember to explain the situation to them. Do not clash with the Bronze Cauldron guards of Bronze Cauldron City. The fae standing at the side heard the Mother of Bloodbath's instructions. He immediately moved and gave up the core area. After the faes had left, Lin Huang's eyes lit up. The Mother of Bloodbath summoned its sacred source life form, the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring. There was a spring that was filled with mist. He quietly appeared at the Mother of Bloodbath's feet. Through the mist he could faintly see the underwater ruins. There were already hundreds of spirit plants. Clearly, the Mother of Bloodbath had not relaxed its absorption of the Myriad Medicine Spring's spirit herbs. The mother of Bloodbath whispered to Xianxia. Dad, this is the sacred source life form that Lin Yuan found for me. Back then it was Lin Yuan who won the civil and martial duels as a reward. Xianxia was stunned when he heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. Could it be that little Qing wants to tell me how good Lin Yuan is? Is she going to announce her relationship with Lin Yuan in front of me? The moment this thought appeared, it immediately made Xianxia, the newbie dad, break out in a cold sweat. Xianxia hoped that such a situation would not happen. Because in such a situation Xianxia would not be able to withstand it. If the mother of Bloodbath had been by Xianxia's side since young, the mother of Bloodbath had told Xianxia who she was going to be with. Xianxia would definitely threaten the brat who had abducted his daughter. He would tell him that if he dared to bully little Qing, he would beat him up and teach him a lesson. But Lin Yuan was now the benefactor of Xianxia's family of 3. Let Xianxia threaten Lin Yuan. Xianxia could not do such a thing. But seriously, Lin Yuan was really good to little Qing. Even the prize for first place was given to Xiao Qing. Just as Xianxia was in a mess, the mother of Bloodbath continued to speak. Dad, my sacred source life form is called the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring. It doesn't match my fighting style at all. When I first got it I was very depressed. Xianxia was even more confused when he heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. Once a sacred source life form was contracted, there was no way to change it. Could it be that little Qing wanted to be comforted by him? Just as Xianxia was about to comfort the mother of Bloodbath, the mother of Bloodbath changed the topic and said, Dad, this sacred source life form doesn't match me, but it's my favorite among all the sacred source life forms I've seen so far. Right now, the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring has absorbed a few hundred plants with medicinal properties. I feel more and more that the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring can reconstruct the body. After Lin Yuan condenses Mother's soul, I can use Lin Yuan's help. As long as I obtain a part of Mother's body, I have the confidence to activate that part of Mother's body. Let Mother's body regenerate. The mother of Bloodbath's words were definitely not to comfort Xianxia. This was originally a thought. When the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring absorbed the first spirit plant, the blood peach blossom, the mother of Bloodbath did not feel any obvious changes in the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring. Thus, it did not take Lin Yuan's idea too seriously. However, quantitative change led to qualitative change. Now the mother of Bloodbath could clearly feel it. The Myriad Medicine Hot Spring's healing ability when it was stacked with medicinal properties. Although the mother of Bloodbath had not found a way to let objects regenerate according to the genetic model, Lin Yuan's Jasmine Lily was already able to do this. With the Jasmine Lily's help, the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring did not need to master this ability. Xianxia heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. Once again he was so excited that he did not know what to do. Xianxia felt that from birth until now. Except for the day of the Jade Grey's death, there was no other day. It was even greater than the ups and downs of his emotions today. It was just as his daughter had said. The Jade Grey could not only maintain life in a soul state, it could also reconstruct the body. While Xianxia was happy, he was also secretly surprised. The mother of Bloodbath's sacred source life form, the Myriad Medicine Hot Spring, together with Lin Yuan's invisible Fae. Wouldn't it be able to resurrect the dead? Thinking of this, Xianxia suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. This ability broke the laws of birth, aging, sickness and death. Once outsiders found out, no matter what identity the mother of Bloodbath and Lin Yuan had, they would be in danger of being targeted. Chapter 1564. Fortunately, the mother of Bloodbath had diverted those Faes. Otherwise, if the mother of Bloodbath directly revealed the Myriad Herb Hot Spring to those Faes, the Myriad Herb Hot Spring wouldn't be able to survive. In order to ensure the safety of his daughter and Lin Yuan, Xianxia was very afraid of him. He had no choice but to kill those loyal Faes. Just as Xianxia was about to warn Lin Yuan and the mother of Bloodbath, Xianxia suddenly realized that Lin Yuan was in a state of epiphany. At this moment, a willpower rune related to the soul appeared. It formed in Lin Yuan's mind. The soul force of this rune disassembled and reassembled it. The cycle repeated as though the spirit remembrance whale was searching and gathering souls. This willpower rune was related to the combination of souls. Lin Yuan had comprehended it when he had sensed the soul thought whale and condensed the jade gray soul. It was very suitable for the soul thought whale. He opened his eyes and revealed a smile. He didn't expect to receive such an unexpected reward from helping the mother of Bloodbath resurrect its mother. When the Soul Thought Whale became a fantasy breed, he could raise the Soul Thought Whale's strength to Diamond X. At that time, the speed at which the Soul Thought Whale condensed a soul would undoubtedly increase. It could speed up the condensation and completion of the soul of the Jade Grey. Apart from that, the Remembrance Spirit Whale's rank had increased. It would allow Morbius to break through the limit of Silver rank level 10. Promoted to the Gold rank. At the same time that Lin Yuan obtained a new Spirit Lock Fey, Morbius, who had been asleep for a long time, might very well wake up again. Lin Yuan had been looking forward to this day for a long time. At this time, Bronze Cauldron City's Bronze Cauldron Guard had reached the inner circle of the lava field. All the fire elemental energy in the lava field had been used up. The changes to the environment around the city would affect Bronze Cauldron City's industries. It directly caused a huge impact. Bronze Cauldron City used to be a big city next to a forest, rich in spirit fruits and flowers. The formation of the lava field forced Bronze Cauldron City to reorganize their industries. But now Bronze Cauldron City had just recovered a bit of its vitality. Unexpectedly, the environment changed again. If this mutation was really irreversible, then it would be impossible to reverse it. Bronze Cauldron City's Yuan Qi would be greatly damaged again. All the industrial arrangements had to be overturned and started anew. But how could it be so easy to change the layout of the industry over the years? The captain of the Bronze Cauldron City personally went out to investigate. The more he probed, the colder his heart became. Because the Bronze Furnace Guard captain had noticed. How could there be any trace of fire elemental energy in this land of lava? Damn the heavens! Do you want to torture Bronze Furnace City to death? The more he looked, the angrier the Bronze Furnace Guard captain became. He noticed a group of Fays guarding this place. They actually blocked his path, not allowing him to check out the situation in the core region. The Bronze Cauldron Guard captain immediately roared in anger. The fire elemental energy in the lava field has disappeared. Is it your doing? So, hurry up and return the fire elemental energy from the lava. The Bronze Cauldron Guard captain became angrier the more he thought about it. At this moment, all the major cities were preparing to build mirror cities in the abyss. Due to the changes in the environment of Bronze Cauldron City, it was only now that he had recovered. Bronze Furnace City, which had just recovered, was just in time to build a mirror city in the abyss world. Bronze Cauldron City was in a difficult situation. Not long ago, two old factions tried to move away from Bronze Cauldron City. Su Quan, the head of the Bronze Furnace Guard, finally managed to persuade him. But now the environment outside of Bronze Cauldron City had changed. All the industries that used fire elemental energy as a foundation in Bronze Cauldron City had been destroyed. Now Bronze Cauldron City was ranked second from the bottom among the 32 major cities of the Radiance Alliance. Damn it! This year's selection, Bronze Cauldron City will definitely be last. What a disgrace. If not for the fact that he had signed contracts with the high-grade Fays in the lava field. These high-grade Fays would secretly protect the Spirit Chi professionals who came to the lava field to train. In return, Bronze Cauldron City would divide the core region of the lava field for these Fays to live in. Although it was common for foreign Fays to attack the native Spirit Chi professionals of Bronze Cauldron City. But this batch of Fays that had signed contracts with Bronze Cauldron City all performed very well. Thus, Su Quan forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart. Otherwise, Su Quan was afraid that he would directly attack the Fays that the Mother of Bloodbath had arranged to guard the inner region. He remembered that the Mother of Bloodbath had specifically warned him not to clash with Bronze Cauldron City's Bronze Cauldron Guard. The middle-aged woman took a few steps forward and said, "No matter what you say, I will not let you pass. Similarly, if you do not force your way in, we will not attack you either. If there is anything, wait for our master to arrive." Hearing this, Su Quan was shocked. Since when did these Fays in the core region of the lava field have a master? These Fays were obviously here to guard the core region. The changes in the lava field must have something to do with these Fays masters. Su Quan was the captain of Bronze Cauldron City's Bronze Cauldron Guards. He could not just watch as Bronze Cauldron City changed because of the environment. The entire city's industrial layout changed. If that was the case, only the heavens knew what kind of residents in Bronze Cauldron City would be. What kind of hard life would they have? Thinking of this, Su Quan gave a few Bronze Cauldron Guards behind him a look. They immediately turned and ran toward Bronze Cauldron City. These people were not going back to Bronze Cauldron City, but to find a place to hide. They were calling the Spirit Guards branch in Bronze Cauldron City, requesting the Spirit Guards to send more experts. Under normal circumstances, these Fays were only at Myth 3 at most. Su Quan alone could handle them. But he had not seen these Fays masters yet. Su Quan could not let his guard down. After sending people to find reinforcements, Su Quan waved his hand and 2 humanoid Fays appeared beside him. These 2 humanoid Fays were holding weapons in their hands. It showed that the strength of these 2 humanoid Fays was at least at Myth 3. Seeing Su Quan summon the Fays, the middle-aged woman and the Fays behind her were shocked. Just as they were about to defend and counterattack, a youth's voice echoed in the wilderness. "Stop." At this moment Su Quan was extremely anxious. Hearing someone tell him to stop, Su Quan yelled angrily. "Stop my ass. Who do you think you are? You think you can control me?" Just as Su Quan finished speaking, a small object flew straight towards him. Su Quan reached out and grabbed the object in his hand. It was a small Class 2 Creation Master crest. Seeing that it was a Creation Master crest, Su Quan was a little confused. "Even if you are really a Class 2 Creation Master, what right do you have to tell me to stop?" But when he saw the moon totem on the Class 2 Creation Master's crest, Su Quan's mouth was wide open and he was stunned. Chapter 1565. He was the city guard captain of Radiant City. He was also a Class 3 Creation Master, Su Quan. He understood better than the other city guard captains who were not Creation Masters the meaning of the totem mark on the Creation Master's crest. Any Class 4 Creation Master who accepted a disciple, they could add their own totem on the disciple's crest. But in the entire Radiance, only Her Majesty had a totem related to the moon. Oh my God! Could it be that I just said Her Majesty's disciple? Just now, in a fit of anger, he seemed to have said something very rude. Su Quan shrunk his neck. But at the same time, as the city guard captain of Bronze Cauldron City, Su Quan was responsible for the economic and industrial layout of the city. He had to go to the core area to see the situation. If he met the Moon Empress disciple, Su Quan felt that he could communicate with the Moon Empress disciple. It was said that the crying child would get milk. If the lava land's fire element was used up, it would be irreversible. This change was really related to the Moon Empress disciple. The Moon Empress disciple had to think of a way out for Bronze Furnace City, right? Bronze Furnace City's overall revenue was tight. As the second lowest city in the Radiant sect, Bronze Furnace City had to build a mirror city in the Abyss world. It was really hard for Bronze Furnace City. The Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift had only opened for a few days. But for Ascending Dragon City, Raging Wave City, Cloud Pool City, Indigo Azure City and other big cities, in the Abyss world they had marked the boundaries of their cities. They had already started to transport large amounts of materials to the Abyss world. They were ready to build the city. Bronze Furnace City could also mark the boundaries. But Bronze Furnace City was so poor that they did not even have the materials ready. Things like building materials were considered economic resources. No matter how poor Bronze Furnace City was, they could tighten their belts and build a mirror city. They could always take them out. But even if they took out the materials, the Bronze Furnace Guard could not do it in a short period of time. They had to drive away or clean up the Abyss demons in the marked areas. The most expensive thing in this world was always the Creation Master's resources. Bronze Furnace City was so poor that the Bronze Furnace Guard did not have many resources. There were not many Creation Masters invested in them. As the city guard captain, Su Quan was a Class 3 Creation Master. Last night he was still concocting the spiritual liquid. He was prepared to help his brothers increase their strength. If Bronze Cauldron City were to suffer another calamity, it could only be someone as important as the Moon Empress disciple. That was the only way to save Bronze Cauldron City. At this moment Su Quan saw 3 figures approaching from afar. One of them was a man and a woman with red hair. At a glance these 2 people were humanoid Fays. The black-clothed youth at the side looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. However, this youth was undoubtedly more like the Moon Empress disciple. The arrival of the Mother of Bloodbath and Xue Shuo made the Fays completely quiet down. The middle-aged woman walked to the Mother of Bloodbath and said with some grievance, "Those spirit chi professionals are very unreasonable and insist on barging in. If I say no, prepare to fight us." The mother of Bloodbath did not say anything. Instead he looked at Lin Yuan. At this moment Su Quan had already walked up to them. He was holding the Class 2 Creation Master crest that had the moon totem on it with both hands. He bent over and handed it back to Lin Yuan. "My lord, I am Bronze Cauldron City's City Guard Captain Su Quan. I would like to ask you something since you rushed over from the Lava Land's central region. Did the anomaly in the Lava Land's central region cause the fire elemental energy to disappear?" Lin Yuan frowned slightly when he heard Su Quan's words. He roughly understood why Su Quan was so concerned about the fire elemental energy in the Lava Land. What exactly was going on? Lin Yuan, who was born in Redbud City, had clearly felt the changes in the environment. It affected the city's economy. Redbud City had been raining for many years. The plant phase in the surrounding Fey breeding bases required a lot of water. However, there was one year when the rain in Redbud City suddenly decreased. This caused the production of plant phase that required a lot of rain to be poor. The price correspondingly increased. At that time Lin Yuan had just taken over the Fey store not long ago. Lin Yuan, who did not have any savings, caught up with the sudden increase in the price of plant phase. It was not a small problem for Lin Yuan and Chu Xi's survival. After understanding Su Quan's concerns, Lin Yuan answered truthfully. "The fire elemental energy in the lava field has indeed been depleted. In the future it will be impossible to recover." Upon hearing that, Su Quan's face fell. Previously, because of the formation of the lava field, Bronze Furnace City had been completely destroyed. It was extremely difficult to transform an industry. Now, because of the disappearance of the lava field, the transformation of Bronze Cauldron City's industries would be painful. He wondered how many civilians there were in Bronze Cauldron City. Due to the sudden change in the environment and the disruption of the industrial chain, they could not afford to eat. Now that something like this had happened, it had to be reported. His Majesty Cicada Cry would definitely allocate resources. It was a small matter for him and the city lord to lose face. However, even if those ordinary people and spirit chi professionals received the relief funds, they would not be able to do so. The despair of having your property destroyed and your job lost. There was no way to erase it from her heart. Su Quan could foresee that it would take at least 100 years. Even Bronze Furnace City would not be able to walk out of the shadow of the lava field. In order to fulfill the conditions of establishing a foothold in the Abyss world, Bronze Furnace City had set up a base. All the funds had to be invested in the Abyss world and the construction of the Mirror Image City, and the livelihood of the citizens in the city. There was no money to invest in Creation Master resources. The more Bronze Cauldron City developed, the more it would deteriorate. The more Su Quan thought about it, the sadder he felt. His eyes reddened. For the future of Bronze Cauldron City, Su Quan planned to have a good talk with the Moon Empress disciple. If the Moon Empress disciple did not care about this matter, he just patted his butt and left. As the city guard captain of Bronze Cauldron City, it was difficult for Su Quan to acknowledge this so-called disciple, even if this youth would become the leader of Radiance in the future. But Su Quan did not expect that before he could speak. The youth in front of him had already spoken. This time the anomaly in the lava field outside Bronze Cauldron City is because my friend absorbed the fire element energy here. I know that this will have a huge impact on Bronze Cauldron City. I am prepared to do something for Bronze Cauldron City. You are the city guard captain of Bronze Cauldron City. You should know what kind of resources Bronze Cauldron City urgently needs. Upon hearing that, Su Quan took a deep look at Lin Yuan. No matter what, this youth was able to say such a thing. It meant that this youth was a responsible person. But even if this youth was the Moon Empress disciple, Su Quan still did not believe that the resources this youth gave, it could make up for Bronze Cauldron City's losses. Chapter 1566. Su Quan felt bad, so he told Lin Yuan directly. Because Bronze Furnace City is surrounded by a forest that produces metal resources. Among the 32 major cities of Radiance, it's not the best, but it's still average. But the formation of the lava lands makes it extremely difficult to mine the metal resources in Bronze Furnace City. The forest has also been burned to ashes. Back then, Bronze Furnace City took a long time to complete the industry transformation. We relied on planting fire-type spiritual materials and nurturing fire-type phase. There was only a slight improvement in the year before last. Your friend is a Fae, so there's nothing wrong with him absorbing fire-type energy. But with the lava land's fire-type energy sucked dry, it affected the livelihoods of billions of people in Bronze Furnace City. If you have to say what Bronze Furnace City lacks, it's the same as other major cities. What it lacks are creation master resources. Even 1,000 high-quality bronze phase cannot compare to the loss of Copper Cauldron City. Su Quan could not estimate how much the disappearance of the lava lands would affect Bronze Furnace City. Su Quan had casually said 1,000 bronze high-quality phase. Other major cities would look for creation masters every year to create some bronze/epic phase. It was used to reward city guards for meritorious service. It was to increase the city guards' strength. But with Bronze Furnace City's current financial reserves, they could not even get bronze/epic phase. Even if they had to get bronze/flawless phase, it was not a small amount of pressure to get 300 every year. With the opening of the Abyss world, the price of fire-type spiritual materials had plummeted. It had a huge impact on Bronze Furnace City. Bronze Furnace City's forces were already showing signs of moving out. Therefore 1,000 bronze high-quality phase was already an unimaginable sum in Su Quan's heart. It was already an unimaginable amount of money. At this moment Su Quan heard the young man opposite him say in an apologetic tone, 1,000 bronze/epic phase is not a problem. But I wonder if Bronze Furnace City has any specific requirements for these 1,000 bronze/epic phase? Su Quan was stunned when he heard Lin Yuan's words. He did not know what to say for a long time. Su Quan, who was afraid of poverty, heard Lin Yuan's promise. For a moment he could not believe his ears. Originally, Xue Shuo and the Mother of Bloodbath were quite unconvinced by Su Quan. The fire elemental energy in this lava land was left by the Jade Gui. Now that it had been taken away, it was as good as getting back what belonged to them. Bronze Furnace City was built next to the lava field. It was tantamount to accepting the nurturing of the Jade Gui. But who would have thought that Jade Gui's body would perish in this place? It had such a huge impact on Bronze Cauldron City. From the start it was his family that owed Bronze Cauldron City. At this moment Su Quan had already regained his senses. She looked at Lin Yuan with an excited expression and even changed the way she addressed him. He addressed Lin Yuan as young lord. Your Highness, is what you said true? Lin Yuan nodded in response. Bronze Cauldron City's standard fei. I remember it's a copper shield snapping turtle. You can divide these 1,000 bronze/epic feis. I can provide resources according to the fei you specify. The change in the lava land's environment will affect the people's livelihood the most. 1,000 bronze/epic feis won't solve the root of the problem. How about this? I'll introduce a few factions to Bronze Cauldron City in the near future that can drive the city's economic development. Then I'll provide Bronze Cauldron City with 300 bronze/epic feis every year. Until Bronze Cauldron City's economic situation recovers. Now that Bronze Cauldron City has returned to its original state, the underground metal resources can continue to be mined. I can make a promise. I don't care about the metal resources in the lava land that were previously occupied by factions. In the future, no outside factions will be allowed to occupy Bronze Cauldron City's mining resources. I'll recycle all the mining resources regardless of species, quality. I'll provide cash flow to Bronze Cauldron City. Many people will need help at the start of the industrial transformation. I'll set up the Warm Sun Fund's next pilot project in Bronze Cauldron City. All individuals or factions whose industries have deteriorated due to the environmental changes in Bronze Cauldron City. Help me count them. When the time comes, I'll let them choose whether they want Creation Master resources or Radiance dollars as compensation. Hearing Lin Yuan's decisive words. For a moment Su Quan didn't know what to say. Su Quan's gaze toward Lin Yuan changed. His eyes were filled with reverence. Just how much boldness and sense of responsibility did the youth in front of her have? That was why he was willing to fork out so many resources. To make up for this anomaly that could be defined as a natural disaster or man-made disaster. Not only did the injection of such a large amount of resources not cause any losses to Bronze Cauldron City. Instead, it was a blessing in disguise. Those factions and individuals who went bankrupt due to the environmental changes and the disappearance of the lava land. Lin Yuan was compensating them with his own strength. It meant that Lin Yuan was shouldering the consequences of the changes alone. Su Quan looked at Lin Yuan with even more reverence. Su Quan didn't reject Lin Yuan's compensation. Su Quan couldn't reject it either. At the same time, Su Quan didn't intend to take more of Lin Yuan's resources. Su Quan said, "Your Highness, with such a large amount of resources, Bronze Cauldron City doesn't suffer any losses. You don't need it at all in the future. Invest another 300 bronze/epic phase into Bronze Cauldron City every year. If your Highness doesn't mind, I hope that Bronze Cauldron City can provide more resources in the future. To be able to trade for bronze/epic phase from your Highness." Lin Yuan glanced at the excited and expectant Bronze Cauldron guards behind Su Quan. He said, "Of course. Bronze Cauldron City used to be next to the lava land. There should be quite a number of abyss-dimensional rifts. I'm sure Bronze Cauldron City has collected a lot of law origin crystals. From now on, as long as Bronze Cauldron City can provide 5 law origin crystals, you will be able to get a bronze/epic fey from me." Su Quan's eyes widened and his body trembled when he heard Lin Yuan's words. "Are you serious? If it's really possible, Bronze Cauldron City can provide 50,000 law origin crystals right now. I just need to get 8,000 bronze/epic phase from His Young Highness." Anyone who told Su Quan about such a deal would be in disbelief. Su Quan wouldn't believe it. How could there be such a good thing in the world? But this was what the Moon Empress disciple Lin Yuan had said. Su Quan had no choice but to believe it. Su Quan boldly took out all the law origin crystals in Bronze Cauldron City's reserves. If he could really get 8,000 bronze/epic phase, the Bronze Cauldron guards could easily double their original numbers. Chapter 1567. The overall strength of Bronze Cauldron City had increased, which meant that its combat power had increased. Under such circumstances, Su Quan was confident. Within 10 years, Bronze Cauldron City would have to go through the pain of transformation. It had once again become a mid-level city of the Radiant sect. Restore the glory of the past. Hearing Su Quan's words, Lin Yuan shook his head. Upon seeing Lin Yuan shake his head, Su Quan immediately felt disappointed. He thought to himself, he was too greedy. The young lord said that he would allow Bronze Cauldron City to exchange 5 law origin crystals for a bronze/epic fey. Perhaps it was just the young prince's preferential treatment for Copper Cauldron City. Or perhaps it was a form of compensation. 8,000 bronze/epic phase. This was a huge project that required 100 Class 4 creation masters to work together to complete. Just as Su Quan was regretting his greed, a voice suddenly rang out. Lin Yuan said, "If Bronze Cauldron City can fork out 50,000 law origin crystals, we'll follow our previous agreement. I will prepare 10,000 bronze/epic phase for Bronze Furnace City. But this transaction cycle will be very long. If Bronze Furnace City decides to trade, I can provide 500 bronze/epic phase for Bronze Furnace every month. The entire transaction will last for 20 months. But the premise of this deal is that I have to get my hands on 50,000 law origin crystals from Copper Cauldron City first." Upon hearing that, Su Quan was overjoyed. He didn't expect that the deal he mentioned out of greed would not only succeed. Moreover, Lin Yuan still insisted on the price he had previously given. Provide Bronze Furnace City with 500 bronze/epic phase every month. Such a large number of creation master resources were poured into Bronze Furnace City. 500 bronze/epic phase happened to be the Bronze Furnace Guard's limit. Great sorrow and great joy made Su Quan, the captain of the Bronze Furnace Guard. For a moment he did not know what to say. After a long time he thanked Lin Yuan and said, "Thank you. Your Highness, give me an hour. I can prepare 50,000 law origin crystals for you." When Lin Yuan heard Su Quan's words, his eyes lit up. When Lin Yuan had traded with the Indigo Azure Guard and the Stormy Wave Guard, Lin Yuan's expression had changed. He was using the identity of the Lord of Sky City. Regardless of whether it was the city guard captain of Stormy Wave City or Indigo Azure City, trading under such circumstances would be extremely difficult. No matter how much he trusted him, there was no way he would hand over tens of thousands of law origin crystals to him in advance. But now Lin Yuan was using his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to make a deal with the Copper Furnace Guard captain, Su Quan. Lin Yuan could make such a request. Su Quan could also give them peace of mind. Lin Yuan was now in front of the Radiance 100 sequence. He just had to wait for Genius and Chinese quality to reach Fantasy V and their bloodlines to continue transforming. Therefore, during this period of time, Lin Yuan could prepare bronze/epic phase for Bronze Furnace City. First, take out a portion of these spiritual items. Alright, then I'll have to trouble you. Prepare the materials for Bronze Cauldron City after you give me the list. No matter what kind of resources it is, they can be prepared within 3 days. Lin Yuan's transaction with Bronze Cauldron City was equivalent to revealing his true strength. In the past he would definitely not have been willing to do such a thing. But now he had an excellent cover. It was none other than Di Wanmi. He now had a Class 5 Creation Master. Even if he took out more Creation Master resources, there was nothing to be surprised about. Lin Yuan had personally seen his master, the Moon Empress, concoct the spirit fluid for 4 hours. Then he divided the spiritual liquid that he had concocted in the past 4 hours into 100 portions. They were fed to 100 bronze phase of the same species. Among the 100 bronze phase of the same species, 23 of them had reached flawless. 75 of them had reached the epic grade. 2 of them had reached legend. His master, the Moon Empress, had such a speed of enhancing phase. She was basically at the peak of the origin world. If he really had to calculate, Lin Yuan did not rely on spirit chi crystals. It was even faster than Lin Yuan's current speed. However, when the soul thought whale fused with the willpower rune that it had just comprehended, Morbius would reach gold. Lin Yuan's speed of increasing the quality of bronze phase would surpass the Moon Empress. Di Wanmi had just become a Class 5 Creation Master. He was definitely not comparable to the Moon Empress. However, as a tool he could concoct hundreds or thousands of bronze/epic phase. It was not a very surprising thing. However, Lin Yuan could not possibly use the Class 5 Creation Master resources that he had obtained with great difficulty. To enhance the phase quality, Lin Yuan could handle these things by himself. Lin Yuan had set Di Wanmi's work goal as the forging of artifacts, as well as helping the 100 Questions Beast Army raise the levels of those walnuts. He quickly rose to diamond rank. Such an ability was something he was still lacking at the moment. It could be said that Red Thorn had used the Tongue of Relinquish to control Di Wanmi. Lin Yuan no longer had any shortcomings in terms of Creation Master abilities. After obtaining 50,000 Law's Origin crystals from Su Quan, the sky had already darkened completely. He was ready to rush to the Radiant Moon Palace to have dinner with his master, the Moon Empress. The situation in the Lava Land involved the livelihood of a large city in the Radiant sect. Lin Yuan was prepared to inform his master, the Moon Empress. On Lin Yuan's way to the Radiant Moon Palace, Su Quan was already in the office of the city guard captain. He started to write a document about the changes in the lava lands. The anomaly in the lava field was originally a bad thing. However, Lin Yuan's appearance had turned the land of lava's mutation into a good thing. It also allowed the lava land to continue nurturing plant phase and excavating ores. Lin Yuan's promise could be said to be in Su Quan's heart. It was like a protective umbrella. After that, even if a top faction came to Bronze Furnace City, they wanted to invest in Bronze Furnace City's ores. Su Quan could directly use Lin Yuan's name. He no longer had to reject the top faction's request and cause the top faction to withdraw their funds from Bronze Furnace City. He could then be the scapegoat. Lin Yuan also promised to bring in a few top factions for Bronze Furnace City. It would drive the economic development of Bronze Furnace City. This was what Su Quan cared about the most. However, he did not know which faction Lin Yuan would bring to Bronze Furnace City. The anomaly in the lava land definitely had to be reported to His Majesty Cicada Cry. Therefore, Su Quan reported everything that had happened after he met Lin Yuan. It was all written in detail in this report. Although it was Su Quan's first time seeing the Moon Empress disciple Lin Yuan. In Su Quan's heart, Lin Yuan was already worthy of being a Radiance Envoy. If such a responsible young man could become a Radiance Envoy of the Radiant sect, to Huiyao this could be said to be a blessing. On the way back, Shuai said to Lin Yuan apologetically, "Lin Yuan, I have caused trouble for you. I will return to the heaven-blessed mansion and take some resources from there, to make up for the losses in the lava land." Chapter 1568. Shuai had now become Lin Yuan's protector. Shuai was the heaven-blessed mansion's mansion master, so it was not appropriate for him to address Lin Yuan as Lord. However, Shuai could not put on the airs of a senior in front of Lin Yuan. This was because Lin Yuan was Blood God's benefactor. In the end, Shuai could only separate from the Mother of Bloodbath and talk to Lin Yuan. However, Lin Yuan treated Xianxia as a senior. Xianxia only heard Lin Yuan say, "Uncle Blood, I've made up for Bronze Cauldron City's losses. I'll move the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's headquarters from the royal capital to Bronze Cauldron City. Uncle Blood doesn't need to compensate Bronze Cauldron City anymore. Of course, even if Uncle Blood were to give it to me, I wouldn't want it." Xianxia was dumbfounded by Lin Yuan's words. This made Xianxia realize how good the young man in front of him was to his people. It was no wonder that Xiaoqing had developed such feelings for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan's decision to move the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce out of the royal capital was not a sudden decision. The royal capital might be the place with the highest spending power and radiance. However, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce wanted to divide enough territory in the abyss. Therefore, he had to go to a big city to develop. There were many things waiting to be done in Bronze Furnace City. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, which specialized in luxury goods, moved to Bronze Furnace City. Bronze Cauldron City would definitely welcome them. The current Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was no longer a small chamber of commerce that could not even be considered a rising force in the past. Ever since the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce publicly announced that it had an emperor-class powerhouse, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's reputation had surpassed that of the veteran factions. They were on par with the top forces. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would definitely be in the Radiant Sect's top faction rankings next year. Such a Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was enough to drive the industry and people of Bronze Cauldron City. Once the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had taken root in Bronze Furnace City, it could also be like the Gao family in Wind Mist City. It became a pillar industry of the city. The mother of Bloodbath and her family had brought disaster to Bronze Furnace City twice. He was helping the mother of Bloodbath compensate Bronze Furnace City. At the same time, this compensation was a win-win situation for Lin Yuan. Xianxia and the mother of Bloodbath sent Lin Yuan to the foot of the Leaning Moon Mountain. He prepared to meet up with Lan Lian and Bai Feng. Tonight, the father and daughter, the mother of Bloodbath and Xianxia, reunited after a long time. Destined to confide in each other. The Radiant Moon Palace was Lin Yuan's home. Therefore, he didn't hold back and used the ethereal jellyfish's node teleportation ability. They were teleported to the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace. At that moment, Lin Yuan happened to see his master, the Moon Empress. He was peeling the lotus seeds with his hands. There were a few lotus flowers in the lotus pond that were trembling and withered. Clearly, this lotus head was cut from the lotus pond. The lotus flowers in the lotus pond in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace had already developed consciousness. Lin Yuan felt that these lotus flowers should hate him to death. Every time he came here, these lotuses would suffer a calamity. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan, she placed the lotus pod on the jade table. He said to Lin Yuan with a proud expression, "Little Yuan, during the time I was in seclusion, these two major things you've done are enough to be written in the history of the Radiance era. Even if I'm a Class 5 creation master, I'm still very important to the entire Radiance. I won't be a match for these tens of thousands of low-class creation masters." The Moon Empress walked in front of Lin Yuan and reached out to help him adjust his collar. He then said, "Little Yuan, Master is awake. From now on, you can do whatever you want to do. No matter how big the matter is, Master can handle it." After hearing the Moon Empress' words, Lin Yuan was slightly startled. Lin Yuan always knew that his master was very proud. However, his master was never conceited. To be able to say such words, it meant that the Moon Empress was very confident. Lin Yuan immediately said with a smile, "Congratulations on Master's breakthrough in seclusion." At that moment, Mystic Moon walked in from outside the palace. She brought along a spirit attendant and placed the dishes on the jade table. "Young Lord, the Moon Empress seclusion this time isn't as simple as just a breakthrough." Mystic Moon had always wanted to tell Lin Yuan about the Moon Empress lifespan. Because of the longevity rat, the Moon Empress crisis had been resolved. Even if she said it, Lin Yuan didn't need to worry about the Moon Empress. But in the end, Mystic Moon didn't say it to Lin Yuan. Because Mystic Moon knew that if she really told Lin Yuan about this, in the end the Moon Empress would definitely be angry with her. Furthermore, Lin Yuan didn't need her to encourage him. During this Radiance 100 sequence selection, the Freedom Federation's envoys would definitely cause trouble. If the Freedom Federation had truly arranged a friendly match for them, in the end, it still had to be Lin Yuan, His Holiness disciple. As a Radiance 100 sequence member, he had to go against the Freedom Federation. This battle that the Freedom Federation had meticulously planned for a long time was enough to motivate Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress scooped a bowl of jujube cheese for Lin Yuan. "Little Yuan, the entire world is going to be in chaos. As far as I know, one of the 8 clans of the Ocean Empire, the Imperial Mermaid Clan, has already reached an agreement with the Freedom Federation. The Radiant Sect is destined to fight the Freedom Federation after the next Myriad Nations Conference. Therefore, in this conference triggered by the Huihai Treaty, the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids Clan must become history." When the Moon Empress spoke, she was smiling at Lin Yuan. But in his eyes, there was a shocking killing intent. When the Moon Empress was in seclusion, she did not sense anything from the outside world. He was fully focused on activating his fate chart to fight against the heavens. He learned from Mystic Moon that Lin Yuan was outside Stormy Wave City. He was almost killed by the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. The Moon Empress had already decided to massacre the entire Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids race. The original 8 clans of the Ocean Empire would be reduced to the 7 clans of the Ocean Empire. Firstly, it was because of the Moon Empress' lingering fear. Secondly, the Moon Empress wanted to express her attitude. Lin Yuan is the disciple of the Moon Empress. No one in this world can be touched. People die when they move. When a faction moves, a faction is destroyed. The current Moon Empress character had completely changed from 10 years ago. Untamed and sharp. But the softness in her heart was still tied to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan did not expect that his master, the Moon Empress, would say such things to him. Only in the Imperial Court Conference could such a decision be discussed. Hearing the Moon Empress' words, Lin Yuan felt a sense of urgency. If this great world was really going to enter a state of war, then his sky city was not strong enough. Even the floating island whale had not ascended to the sky. After eating, Lin Yuan did not leave the Radiant Moon Palace that night. Instead, he slept in his own pavilion in the Radiant Moon Palace. The next day, as soon as he opened his eyes, Lin Yuan received the good news from the audio tape. "Lin Yuan, Chimey only needs to absorb a wisp of deviant flame energy to raise its quality to Fantasy V. Lin Yuan originally wanted to raise the Thought Soul Whale to Fantasy breed today. Then he would raise Morbius grade. He did not expect Chimey to bring him such a surprise. Genius could have advanced to Fantasy V. But in order to wait for Chimey, it had delayed the advancement." Chapter 1569. Lin Yuan planned to return to the Return from Faraway Manor. He planned to let Genius and Chimey evolve into Fantasy V in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Lin Yuan released Genius and Chimey from the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Genius and Chimey might be Diamond X/Fantasy 4 phase now, but they were still Diamond X/Fantasy 4 phase. However, when facing Lin Yuan, Genius and Chimey would be like before. One of them would lie in Lin Yuan's embrace. The other would jump onto Lin Yuan's ear. Of course, this was also thanks to Genius and Chimey. Even with the increase in strength, their bodies didn't grow bigger. Chimey said to Lin Yuan with a crisp voice. "Lin Yuan, after Chimey evolves into Fantasy V, are you going to transform into a human form and hold a concert soon?" Chimey stayed on the phoenix perching parasol tree all day. It was either increasing its strength or live streaming. It was raising funds for the Warm Sun Fund. However, Genius's current knowledge reserves were no different from a Pinnacle Class 4 creation master. Upon hearing Chimey's words, Genius replied, "Chimey, you have to wait until you transform into a myth breed and reach Myth 2. Only then can you transform into a human form and hold a concert." Genius and Chimey were improving their strength very quickly. Lin Yuan sighed and felt that he was truly a failure as a contractor. He was only a B-rank Spirit Chi professional now. He had to wait until his Spirit Chi professional rank reached A rank. Then Chimey could evolve into a myth breed. Fortunately, Morbius was about to evolve from silver to gold. Once Morbius evolved to gold, Lin Yuan's Spirit Chi professional rank would increase along with his enhanced phase. There would be a qualitative leap. Genius and Chimey's bloodline strength was already a pleasant surprise for Lin Yuan. Another bloodline transformation. Lin Yuan was unable to predict which path Genius and Chimey were going to take. Chimey originally had the opportunity to awaken the Luan Phoenix species bloodline. However, Chimey used its bloodline to swallow a phoenix. It devoured the Luan Phoenix species bloodline. It opened up another path and continued to advance on the path of the sonic type. If genius abilities were all developed in the spiritual energy aspect, that wasn't entirely true. Genius was more like a smart cat's commander. The 100 Questions beasts were a race that could replace creation masters. Lin Yuan hoped that genius would break through with its bloodline. It would be able to advance on the path of a creation master. If he was smart, he would be able to reach the standard of a Class 5 creation master. Then Lin Yuan would have 2 Class 5 creation masters under him. He changed his clothes. Lin Yuan came out of the pavilion and headed for the inner palace. He was prepared to have breakfast with his master and the Moon Empress. When he arrived at the inner palace, he found that his master, the Moon Empress, was actually wearing the moonlight crown robe. The Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan and smiled. "Little Yuan, I'm going to attend the Imperial Court Assembly later. I'll be leaving first." While speaking, the Moon Empress had already scooped a bowl of bamboo shoot shark marrow soup for him. This bowl of soup contained surging water elements and blood energy. Lin Yuan sensed the aura. He realized that the aura was not much different from the aura on Shark Mang. Lin Yuan thought to himself. His master, the Moon Empress, had made this bowl of green bamboo shoot shark marrow soup. Could the mermaid marrow be from the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan of the 8 great clans of the Sea Emperor? Lin Yuan could sense his master, the Moon Empress. He had a strong killing intent towards the Imperial Mermaid clan. Taking advantage of the fact that his master had yet to move, Lin Yuan felt that everything that had happened during this period of time had to be done. I should talk to my master, the Moon Empress. Yesterday, the Moon Empress had said that the entire origin world would be in turmoil. Lin Yuan planned to tell her about the results of the Celestial Body Council. Lin Yuan had never mentioned the Celestial Body Council to the Moon Empress. However, as Wen Yu's master, Mystic Moon, knew that Wen Yu's sacred source life form was from the Celestial Body Council. Mystic Moon told the Moon Empress about the Celestial Body Council. The Moon Empress felt that the Celestial Body Council was rather extraordinary. However, she did not feel that the Celestial Body Council was very useful. From the Moon Empress' point of view, the people that the Celestial Body Council had gathered, they were already in a desperate situation. Firstly, it was not easy to help such people. Secondly, even if she helped them, it would be very difficult to change their fates. Unless these people were all on the same continent. If they could gather together, separated by continents, no matter how powerful they were, it would be very difficult to reach out that far. But now, the Moon Empress was stunned by the results of the Celestial Body Council. Master, there are currently 2 Federation envoys in the Celestial Body Council. One of them is Dark Envoy Su Iran from the 7 Dark States. The other is Azure Envoy Yin Lin from the Azure Federation. The remaining 2 also have the potential to become Federation envoys. It's just that I can't guarantee how far they can go. Lin Yuan was naturally referring to Tali and Bupa. The Moon Empress and Mystic Moon heard Lin Yuan's words. They were speechless for a long time. The Moon Empress and Mystic Moon could not help but feel puzzled. The Celestial Body Council was more strategic than practical. How did Lin Yuan use it? He actually used it in this small Celestial Body Council. He recruited 2 Federation envoys. Dark Envoy Su Iran from the 7 Dark States. She represented the hope of the Dark Continent. With Su Iran, when Lin Yuan had designs on the Dark Continent, it was completely justifiable. The Azure Federation and the Radiance Federation were both one of the 3 major federations. Yin Lin was a genius among the younger generation of the Azure Federation who had awakened 2 beast patterns. It was rumored that Yin Lin was from the Azure Cloud Leopard family. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and awakened the beast mark. Could it be because of Lin Yuan? It was said that Yin Lin had volunteered to go to the Radiance Federation. Thinking about it, Yin Lin was very likely to come for Lin Yuan. After understanding this, the Moon Empress and Mystic Moon looked at each other. They both thought that they understood Lin Yuan very well. However, Lin Yuan was already in a place that they could not see. His strength had developed beyond their imagination. Like Diwanmi, Night Leaning Moon needed to give an explanation to the creation masters who had been persecuted by the whale ocean trade. Therefore she killed Diwanmi. Night Leaning Moon could not do anything to Diwanmi's corpse. However, Lin Yuan could use his own method to resurrect Diwanmi. He even allowed Diwanmi to retain his Class 5 Creation Master abilities and become a servant. These were all things that the Moon Empress did not expect. In her heart she had previously thought that no matter what Lin Yuan did, she would be able to put up a barrier behind Lin Yuan. Apart from that, the Moon Empress also had a trace of thought. She wanted to see her disciple Lin Yuan. How far could he go in the future? The Moon Empress asked herself. When she was 18 or 19 years old, there was no way to compare with the current Lin Yuan. Moreover, Lin Yuan was truly terrifying. It was not that Lin Yuan had such strength when he was 18 or 19 years old. It was that Lin Yuan had done it in less than a year. Starting from zero, he had increased his strength to such a level. What kind of amazing talent was this? At that moment, the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan continue to speak. Master, I have plans to unify the shock pattern continent. Chapter 1570. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, Mystic Moon almost coughed out the soup in his mouth. However, Lin Yuan had Diwanmi, a Class 5 creation master. It wasn't impossible for Lin Yuan to unify the Agawan continent. The Moon Empress pondered for a moment and said, there is an agreement in the 10,000 States Convention. That is, the official power of a federation cannot be used in another continent. This agreement was made by all the federations. Therefore, little Yuan, you can only rely on yourself in the Agawan continent. Mystic Moon heard the Moon Empress words. He felt that the Moon Empress words were obviously warning Lin Yuan. But no matter how he listened, there was a kind of the feeling that the Agawan continent should be my disciple. At this moment, the Moon Empress felt proud and a little disappointed. She clearly didn't teach Lin Yuan much. Lin Yuan had already grown to be so outstanding. This made the Moon Empress feel less of a sense of accomplishment. But there was a sense of pride. This pride for Lin Yuan. It made the Moon Empress happier than the Moon Empress breaking through. Finally, the Moon Empress said softly to Lin Yuan. Little Yuan, looking at you, Master suddenly has a feeling that I can't refuse to be old. This world belongs to you young people. Lin Yuan heard this and shook his head. Master is not old. Moreover, with the lifespan rat, Master can live forever. You will always be young. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Moon Empress couldn't help but stretch out her hand. She gently caressed Lin Yuan's cheek. A warm smile appeared on her face. Seeing that it was about time, the Moon Empress prepared to leave for the imperial court. To attend the imperial court meeting. Before leaving, the Moon Empress' expression suddenly turned cold. He said to Lin Yuan, Little Yuan, the Radiance 100 sequence test this time. If the Freedom Federation's people kill our Radiance's people, no matter what your opponent's identity is, you can still get rid of them in the competition. Lin Yuan heard this and nodded. He said seriously, Master, I will. The conversation between the Moon Empress and Lin Yuan made Mystic Moon break out in cold sweat. But the Moon Empress was still like this. It made Mystic Moon feel more familiar. This was because the Moon Empress had completely returned to how she was 10 years ago. After breakfast, Lin Yuan went down the Leaning Moon Mountain. Back at the return from faraway manor. As soon as he returned to the main residence, he saw an aquatic rhinoceros leather sofa. They were Xueshuo, Lan Lian, and Bai Feng. Wen Yu was steeping 3 treasures tea at the side, serving the 3 of them. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's return, Xueshuo hurriedly stood up and said, Your Highness, my 2 friends would like to trouble Your Highness for a few days. During the beginning of the Radiance 100 sequence, protect the young lord's safety. Xueshuo did not know how to address Lin Yuan. In the end, she chose to call him young lord. Upon hearing how Xueshuo addressed him, Lin Yuan hurriedly replied, That's right. Uncle Blood, you are Blood Qing's father. He's also my elder. Just call me Little Yuan will do. There are still quite a few empty guest rooms in the main residence. You are naturally welcome to stay here. White Phoenix and Blue Lotus rushed to Lin Yuan's side excitedly. Although he had obtained an accurate answer from Xueshuo and the mother of Bloodbath last night, he still couldn't believe it. But now he still could not help but say to Lin Yuan, Little benefactor, can Sister Yu Gui really be resurrected? Upon seeing Lin Yuan nod, Bai Feng and Lan Lian received an affirmative answer. They were so excited that they could not help but laugh out loud. Lan Lian, who was laughing, could not help but crush the tomato in her hand. The collapsed ground was everywhere. No matter how one looked at it, it was somewhat comical. However, Lin Yuan knew that these spirits of heaven's blessings were genuine. The Heaven's Blessed Dojo should be the same as the Radiance Federation. They were all a warm presence. Xueshuo looked at the laughing Blue Lotus and White Phoenix. He could not help but hold his forehead with his hand. He had completely forgotten that when he first learned that Yu Gui could be resurrected. Compared to Blue Lotus and White Phoenix, he was much more miserable. His tears could fill a can. Shueishuo said to Lin Yuan. Little Yuan, I have already informed the Heaven's Blessed Dojo's Grand Hall Master, Ziqing. When the time comes, Big Sister Ziqing will send over a silk handkerchief that Yu Gui has always used. This silk handkerchief was used by Big Sister Ziqing with the soul congregation technique. She gathered the souls of almost all the inanimate objects in the entire lava land. When the time comes, I hope that Fae of yours. Let's see if we can find a bit of Yu Gui's remnant soul in this silk handkerchief. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded and said, Uncle Shui, this is very easy. My Fae's grade will be promoted very soon. After the promotion, its strength will increase. No matter how many remnant souls there are, it will be quickly filtered. Shueishuo thought of the phone call last night. When he told Big Sister Ziqing about the news. Big Sister Ziqing actually lost control and cried for an entire hour on the other end of the phone. Was this still the calm Big Sister Ziqing? Finally, Big Sister Ziqing said. She would immediately bring Yu Gui's silk handkerchief to the Radiance Federation. Now Shueishuo had found his daughter. His wife was about to be resurrected. There was hope everywhere in life. It was no longer like before, living only to take revenge. But in Shueishuo's heart, the hatred for the tower cannon did not disappear at all. When Big Sister Ziqing came, the tower cannon would come to the Radiance Federation. They were destined to stay in the Radiance Federation. When you brought Shueishuo, White Phoenix and Blue Lotus to arrange rooms. After Lin Yuan returned to his room, he entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone. He was prepared to increase his strength one last time before the Radiance 100 sequence. Looking at Genius and Chimey, Lin Yuan pondered for a while. In the end, he decided to evolve the Remembrance Soul Whale into a fantasy breed first. Then he would increase the grade of the Remembrance Soul Whale. He would let Morbius evolve to Gold first. Even if it evolved to Gold, Morbius would not wake up. But after evolving to Gold, Morbius' exclusive skill, the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, would be enhanced. The area of the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone would increase, and the Spirit Chi concentration would also increase. Genius and Chimey's bloodline metamorphosis might not be as dangerous as before. The Spirit Chi concentration would increase. In the face of unexpected events, it would more or less be of some help. Therefore, Lin Yuan summoned the Remembrance Soul Whale and the willpower rune related to the soul that he had comprehended. Lin Yuan said softly to the Remembrance Soul Whale, Remembrance Soul Whale, you are a legendary Fae. In the previous legends, I have never heard of a Remembrance Soul Whale comprehending a willpower rune. Remembrance Soul Whale, you have fused with the willpower rune, which is equivalent to a new legend. Go, Remembrance Soul Whale. Welcome this willpower rune and evolve into a fantasy breed. When the Remembrance Soul Whale heard Lin Yuan's words, it let out a clear cry. It collided with the willpower rune related to the soul. Immediately after, on the Remembrance Soul Whale's body, soul fluctuations were like water ripples that spread out. Soul power gathered on the sharp horn on the Remembrance Soul Whale's head. Soon this sharp horn was visible to Lin Yuan's naked eye. There was an earth-shattering change. Chapter 1571. The Spirit Thought Whale's horn from before was just a smooth spike-shaped object. Upon closer inspection, one could see faint markings on the horns. However, the Soul Remembrance Whale's size did not increase. But this sword horn was becoming thicker at a speed visible to the naked eye. The originally shallow lines on the corner protruded. These textures that looked like whorls eventually turned into one after another. It was a rune that contained soul energy. Runes collided with each other around the Soul Remembrance Whale's horn. It formed a special force field composed of soul power. This soul force field was flipped and fitted together. The willpower rune that had fused with the Soul Thought Whale had absorbed and released souls. They achieved the same result through different means. After the Spirit Remembrance Whale's horn finished its transformation, just as Lin Yuan thought that the Soul Thought Whale was about to complete its metamorphosis, when it became a bronze fantasy breed Fae, the Soul Thought Whale's body changed again. Others could not see the Soul Thought Whale. However, Lin Yuan could clearly see the state of the Soul Thought Whale. The Spirit Remembrance Whale looked like a translucent little white whale. However, compared to a normal white whale, it had an extra sharp horn. However, soul imprints were slowly appearing on the whale's skin. Lin Yuan took a closer look at these soul engravings. He realized that most of the souls were collected by the spirit thought whale when it went to the lava. Apart from the soul of the jade gray, there were also the souls of the other dead things. They were all absorbed by the soul remembrance whale. Now, on the spirit remembrance whale's skin, there were images of these dead souls. Every time the spirit thought whale breathed, the faint patterns on its skin would disappear. It will become a little fainter. This meant that the soul power had been completely absorbed by the soul thought whale. And those souls that were engraved very clearly. Most of them came from phase that had just died in the lava field's core region. With the soul thought whale's current strength, it would take a long time to absorb all these souls. It should take a long time. Soon he would have to use the spirit chi crystals that he had saved up. It was time to upgrade the soul remembrance whale. At that time, the soul thought whale's absorption of soul power would greatly increase. The soul thought whale's ability Soul Knot and its exclusive skill Burning Soul Rebirth. These two abilities were not enough to cause the soul thought whale's skin to undergo such a change. The changes in the soul thought whale's skin should be related to advancing into a fantasy breed. It was related to the new exclusive skill he had obtained. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized something. On the soul thought whale's skin were the relatively complete souls. It was continuously compressed by the soul remembrance whale and finally turned into an imprint. It attached itself to the whale's tail. The soul thought whale's body was also shrinking as it evolved into a fantasy breed. From the previous 2 to 3 meters, it was now about 1 meter long. Including the whale horn, it was less than 2 meters. The evolved soul thought whale circled around Lin Yuan. After all, the spirit thought whale was a living being born from the whale's soul. It had just become a fantasy breed, but it already had extremely high intelligence. The soul thought whale communicated with Lin Yuan. Master, can you hear Nian Nian's voice? Nian Nian used the language in the absorbed soul memory to communicate with Master. Master should be able to understand, right? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan could not help but lament. Sure enough, the soul element was the most mysterious element. Now that the soul thought whale had absorbed the souls of the dead, it possessed abilities similar to genius. However, through communication, Lin Yuan realized that the soul thought whale's brain capacity could not be compared to genius. Genius could remember a lot of knowledge, but the spirit remembrance whale could not. When the spirit remembrance whale chose to look at the memories of a soul when it was alive, the soul memory that was previously read would be forgotten. But even so, in Lin Yuan's opinion, the spirit remembrance whale's ability, it was also an extremely domineering ability. The spirit remembrance whale could be called a criminal investigation expert on the battlefield. Through examining the souls of dead objects, it could make the dead speak. Nian Nian was obviously the name that the spirit remembrance whale had given itself. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Nian Nian's name was rather nice. Nian Nian, how much more of the Jade Gray's soul is lacking? How much more can it awaken its memories? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the spirit remembrance whale opened its mouth. A spider image shot out from the spirit remembrance whale's mouth. This spider image was sluggish and did not move at all. The spirit remembrance whale used its sharp horn to stab at the spider image. After sensing it for a while, it spoke. Master, I want this spider image to regain its memories. I need at least 9 more, the same amount of remnant souls that I absorbed previously. Even if it recovers, it can only recover the most important memories. If I want to remember all the details of my past life, I'll need at least 40 remnant souls of the same amount. Upon hearing the soul thought whale, Lin Yuan nodded. Lin Yuan had already told Blood Beginning and the mother of Bloodbath about this matter in advance. Even if it didn't work, he had no other choice. Let's hope that the silk handkerchief brought by Heaven's Blessed Dojo's Grand Dojo Master. Could it really contain quite a bit of Jade Gray's remnant soul? Lin Yuan looked at the flickering remnant souls on the soul thought whale. He was even more curious about the exclusive skill that the soul thought whale had obtained after becoming a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data. He began to investigate the fantasy breed soul thought whale. Lin Yuan found that the soul thought whale's new exclusive skill was called Remembrance Bestowment. Psyche Bestowment. Through the collection and fusion of dead souls, when the dead souls reach a certain degree of completeness, the dead souls can be turned into psyche imprints. Attaching the psyche imprints to the same kind of life form can help increase the same kind of life form's perception ability, making it easier for the same kind of life form to comprehend will and rules. Upon seeing the Soul Thought Whale's exclusive skill, Lin Yuan was at a loss for words. Oh my god. The Soul Thought Whale's exclusive skill, Psyche Bestowment, could be done through human means? Helping Fays comprehend exclusive skills? There were many Fays in the world. It was very rare for Fays to rely on themselves to comprehend exclusive skills. The Acid Corrosion Queen Bee still had no signs of comprehending a willpower rune. If it killed a fantasy breed or a myth breed bee Fay, it would be extremely dangerous. It would let the Soul Thought Whale absorb the remnant soul of this bee Fay. The Fay that it had just killed would definitely have a complete remnant soul. It would then let the Soul Thought Whale condense the Psyche imprints on its tail. It would then imprint the Psyche imprints on the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's body. It would probably increase the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's chances of comprehending a willpower rune. In fact, they could even choose different Fays. It could guide the Fae to comprehend a willpower rune when evolving into a fantasy breed. This ability was simply too powerful. Could be said that the Soul Thought Whale was the same as genius. They both subverted the main world's public perception. In the public's perception, apart from some treasures that could increase perception, there was nothing else that could help Fays comprehend a willpower rune. Chapter 1572. Furthermore, it was the Soul Thought Whale's exclusive skill, Soul Thought Bestowment. It could be used on Fays. Could it be used on spirit chi professionals? Lin Yuan asked the Soul Thought Whale. Nian, when you were searching for dead souls in the lava just now, I remember that you found a lot of dead spirit chi professionals' souls. See if you can make the souls of these dead spirit chi professionals into soul remembrance seals. The Soul Thought Whale heard Lin Yuan's words. The soul imprint on his body started to wander. Soon the soul images of the spirit chi professionals appeared. The Spirit Thought Whale's body lit up. The Soul Thought Whale chose a relatively bright spirit chi professional's soul. Then he turned the soul into a soul remembrance seal. It was compressed to the tail. This spirit chi professional's soul had formed a soul remembrance seal. It was much smaller than the soul remembrance imprints on the soul remembrance whale's tail. Lin Yuan could understand all of this. Firstly, it was because of the soul remembrance imprints formed by the souls of spirit creatures on the soul remembrance whale's tail. They were basically diamond, fantasy, and myth breed Fays. Secondly, a spirit chi professional's soul force was weaker than a Fays. Since he was now experimenting with his conjecture. He did not care what willpower rune this dead soul had comprehended when it was alive. Lin Yuan instructed Nian. Nian, imprint this soul remembrance imprint on my body. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's command, Nian gently lifted its tail. It attached its tail to Lin Yuan's head. This soul remembrance seal entered Lin Yuan's body. Lin Yuan suddenly felt it. In his spiritual world there was a faint feeling of enlightenment. However, this comprehension was simply too faint, almost indiscernible. It was hard to grasp this feeling. It seemed like he wanted to rely on the soul remembrance seal that he obtained from the dead spirit chi professional. It was not realistic to comprehend a willpower rune. However, a person's comprehension of a certain willpower rune had reached a critical point. When there was only a layer of window paper between them, the trace of comprehension brought by the remembrance seal would definitely have a miraculous effect. Lin Yuan looked at the Soul Thought Whale in shock. The existence of the soul remembrance whale was the same as genius. They were all forbidden existences. He absolutely could not let anyone else know about this. The soul remembrance whale could be considered a key. The person who controls the spirit thought whale can use this key to choose whether to walk the path of heaven or the path of hell. If Lin Yuan indulged in the soul thought whale's exclusive skill, soul bestowment, he would not be able to use it. Lin Yuan was likely to become like Di Wanmi. He no longer cared about the lives of spirit chi professionals. He only treated it as a supplement to improve himself. In the end, he calmed his heart and made an oath in his heart. He would never use the soul remembrance whale's exclusive skill, the soul remembrance, as a precondition, brutally killing spirit chi professionals. But when facing the enemy, he would kill the enemy. Then using soul remembrance to bestow was a very normal thing. Lin Yuan stayed true to his heart. However, he was definitely not a Virgin Mary who would show mercy to his enemies. Especially now, when the entire origin world was in turmoil. Could be said that the spirit remembrance whale existed. All the Fays in the spirit lock spatial zone were beneficiaries. Even if some Fays didn't have great talent, they wouldn't be able to do so. It was through the soul thought whale's exclusive skill, soul thought bestowal. Lin Yuan could also help it comprehend its exclusive skill bit by bit. He was advancing toward the fantasy breed and even the myth breed. Lin Yuan wasn't in a hurry to put the soul thought whale back into the spirit lock spatial zone. Instead, he took the spirit chi crystals and said to the soul thought whale, "Nian Nian, absorb the spirit chi in these spirit chi crystals. Nian Nian, absorb the spirit chi in these spirit crystals. I will raise your level all the way to the diamond level now." While speaking, Lin Yuan crushed all the spirit chi crystals in his hand. A large amount of spirit chi enveloped the soul thought whale. It caused the soul thought whale's grade to constantly increase. The instant the soul thought whale's strength increased to gold, the entire spirit lock spatial zone shook in an instant. Lin Yuan could feel the spirit lock spatial zone's area constantly expanding. Lin Yuan hurriedly left the spirit lock spatial zone with the soul thought whale. Outside the spirit lock spatial zone, the soul thought whale's grade continued to increase. Due to Morbius' advancement to gold, the spirit lock spatial zone's area started to expand. The original spirit lock spatial zone's area was 160 square meters. After the spirit lock spatial zone's area was expanded, it should be able to reach 320 square meters. Such an area was enough for Lin Yuan to make more arrangements in the spirit lock spatial zone. The expansion of the spirit pool and pure land of bliss. It could also bring more benefits for Lin Yuan. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard a voice that he hadn't heard for a long time but was abnormally familiar. "Partner, long time no see." Upon hearing this voice, Lin Yuan's face immediately revealed a sunny smile. Lin Yuan excitedly communicated with Morbius through his spiritual energy. "Morbius, I guessed that you would be able to wake up when you reached gold." Hearing this, Morbius's cold tone was filled with warmth. "Partner, you're growing very quickly. You allowed me to reach gold in such a short period of time. After advancing to the gold rank, I gained a trace of memory. The current me is actually incomplete." Upon hearing Morbius' words, Lin Yuan lowered his head to look at the Morbius hoop on his wrist. Lin Yuan had long noticed that there were many small holes on the copper-colored Morbius hoop. These small holes seemed to be originally embedded with something. "Morbius, was there something originally embedded in the small holes on the hoop?" Upon hearing that, Morbius shook its head. "Partner, the things in the small holes should be able to be replaced at will. However, I'm not sure what exactly is needed for the things in the small holes. Perhaps when I encounter it, I will be able to sense it. Partner, if there is a chance to fill these small holes, every time one is filled, those phase that you spirit locked can be matched with the small holes on the hoop. Remove the restrictions of spirit locked." Upon hearing Morbius' words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment. Then he asked in pleasant surprise, "Removing the restrictions of spirit locked refers to the phase that have spirit locked, except for normal abilities. Can other abilities be unlocked?" Upon hearing that, Morbius nodded. "That's right, partner." Upon hearing Morbius' affirmative answer, Lin Yuan suddenly had a feeling that he had raised a group of children. Originally, these children were all paralyzed and could only sit in wheelchairs. However, he was suddenly told that these children now had a chance to stand up and return to their normal level. Lin Yuan did his best to nurture each of the phase that had spirit locked. He helped them create the most optimal evolutionary conditions. Lin Yuan had always been curious about his phase. For example, the other abilities of the Jasmine Lily, Blackie, and Purple Firmament. Chapter 1573. Previously, Lin Yuan had only been curious and had no expectations. But after that, as long as he found the Mobius strip, he would be able to find what was inside the hole. These were the skills of Jasmine Lily, Little Black, and Purple Firmament. Lin Yuan would always have a chance to see it. Morbius, after the Radiance 100 sequence selection is over, I'll take you to find the thing that needs to be filled in this hole. Even if you don't know what's inside the hole, I'll take you to the main world and dimensional world. I believe that we will be able to sense it." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Morbius' stern face revealed a smile. "Buddy, you've worked hard." Morbius was a Fae. If Lin Yuan's life had started from his birth, then he would have died. It was like a companion to Morbius. There was a deep bond. It was the same for Morbius and Lin Yuan. It could be said that in this world, nothing was more sincere to Lin Yuan than Morbius. But in the end, Morbius was still a living creature. There was no living being that didn't wish to recall their past. Morbius was no exception. At that moment, Morbius heard Lin Yuan continue speaking. Partner, one day I will bring you along and complete you, so that you can clearly investigate your own secrets. Lin Yuan's tone was very firm. It was like a promise. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Morbius felt warmth in its heart for no reason. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, Morbius said softly, Partner, on the road of life, I will still protect you with everything I have. At this point, Morbius suddenly thought of something. Partner, your sacred source life form, the sacred sword-wielding queen, was fused with my origin power. My spirit lock spatial zone is able to produce pure spirit chi. It's because the spirit transformation pool can decompose and purify the spirit energy within the energy ores. In essence, it is the origin of all the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. All of it comes from the spirit pool, which releases and purifies the spirit chi within the energy ores. Actually, I think my origin power is more compatible with sacred source life forms. I can even change the energy within a sacred source life form at will. I feel that what I need is more likely to appear in the dimensional world. Upon hearing Morbius' words, Lin Yuan nodded gently. In any case, Morbius' words were tantamount to delineating a range for Lin Yuan. Having a scope was much easier than having no scope to do things. For the sake of Morbius, Lin Yuan decided. After the end of the Radiance 100 sequence, he immediately sorted out the Agai when continence matters. Before the turmoil in the origin world, he had put his mind on developing the swamp world. During the Radiance 100 sequence selection this time, he didn't have the chance to release the spirit-locked Fae. It allowed the spirit-locked Fae to execute abilities other than normal. However, Lin Yuan hoped that during the 10,000 Nations Convention, the 10,000 Nations Convention would be held. These Faes that he had locked with Spirit Lock would be able to release the brilliance that they should have. Morbius, you should be able to sense that there are two souls in the depths of my brain. These two souls are in a separate state, but both of them can be independent. But at the end of the day, whether it's my soul in my previous life or my soul in this life, it's all my own soul. I think my soul can contract another sacred source life form. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Morbius answered. Partner, you can indeed use another soul to contract a sacred source life form. However, your first sacred source life form was formed from the fusion of two sacred source life forms. Also, the sacred source life form, the Grace Queen, is a little special. Its origin aura far surpasses the origin aura of the Pursuit Saint Sword. I will fuse these two sacred source life forms. The amount of soul energy it occupies is more than that of a sacred source life form. But partner, you've been giving me control of your spiritual force. I can also share my soul power with you. When your soul power grows a bit more, it will be able to superimpose with my soul power. Partner, each of your two souls can form a contract with another sacred source life form. Upon hearing Morbius' words, Lin Yuan recalled what his master, the Moon Empress, had said. Those with high soul aptitude had the opportunity to contract two sacred source life forms. Both of his souls could form contracts with two sacred source life forms. That was the number of sacred source life forms he could control. Wouldn't that mean he could control 4? Moreover, these sacred source life forms could be the same as the Grace Queen. They were formed by the fusion of two sacred source life forms. Coincidentally, Lin Yuan had discovered the secret of sacred source life forms in the swamp world. It seemed that heading to the Myriad Palace in the East Swamp Circle was a must. He had to choose two sacred source life forms that were suitable for him. Then he would fuse the two sacred source life forms. It would definitely be easier to just fuse with two sacred source life forms. According to Morbius, Morbius could sense the energy level of an uncontracted sacred source life form. Sacred source life forms were formed when an apostle's faith level reached the middle level and they activated their sacred source body. They were formed from totem energy. Bai Yan and the Dark Scorpion Apostle were both apostles. They could form sacred source life forms after death. On the surface, it was impossible to tell the difference. However, there was no doubt that the sacred source life form formed after Bai Yan's death was at the same level. It was higher than the Dark Scorpion Apostle's sacred source life form. Moreover, according to the rumors from Bai Yan, even a ruler who had yet to reach the samsara realm, after death they would also turn into sacred source life forms. It could be said that every sacred source life form was like a golden egg. After being covered by the rainbow light, It was impossible to see what was inside the golden egg. However, the higher the level, the better. Even if Lin Yuan did not know what a sacred source life form was, he could choose it through Morbius ability. He could also choose the sacred source life form with the highest level of energy. Lin Yuan felt that the Grace Queen was most likely an apostle when she was alive. A ruler who had yet to reach the Samsara realm. Even if she was not, she must have been an apostle with extremely powerful faith power. Lin Yuan communicated with Morbius for a while. This allowed Lin Yuan to confirm the path he needed to take next. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Morbius speak. Partner, the Spirit Lock spatial zone has been upgraded. As my rank increases, a new item has appeared in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. This thing should be very useful to you. Lin Yuan's interest was immediately piqued. He immediately returned to the Spirit Lock spatial zone. In the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Morbius stood beside Lin Yuan in its soul form. Previously, the Spirit Lock spatial zone had an area of 480 square meters. This was already quite a large area. Now that the Spirit Lock spatial zone had expanded, it felt like a miniature plane. Chapter 1574. Such a spacious area made Lin Yuan feel very comfortable. Previously, when Morbius was at Silver, the Spirit Lock spatial zone was actually very spacious. It was far from the Spirit Lock spatial zone's original size of 80. Every inch of space had to be used with great difficulty. After returning to the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan realized that the Spirit Lock spatial zone had become wider. Lin Yuan's most direct observation was the concentration of spirit qi in the spatial zone. It was a huge improvement compared to before. It was visible to the naked eye. Lin Yuan noticed that the phase in the spatial zone could produce qi phenomena. The wind speed rapid antelope's appearance was changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wind speed rapid antelope had already started to shed a layer of short fur. It was constantly growing new fur. Although its bloodline hadn't metamorphosed. Under the nourishment of such spirit qi, the wind speed rapid antelope's aptitude had an obvious improvement. However, the ones with the greatest changes were definitely Genius and Chimey. Genius and Chimey were able to grow to this extent. Could be said that it was all due to the pure spirit qi. Genius and Chimey were currently covered by their own fur and feathers. Lin Yuan had seen such a situation many times in the past. It was the first time Lin Yuan discovered his special physique. When he woke up, he realized that Genius and Chimey had shed their fur. They had already occupied half of the bed. Lin Yuan was very glad. It was all thanks to him raising Morbius grade. Now Genius and Chimey were being nourished by the pure spirit qi. Their bloodline had been purified. When they reached Fantasy V, their bloodline would definitely evolve more thoroughly. Lin Yuan hadn't confirmed that Morbius was a gold spirit lock fae. He didn't have any excess willpower runes. Therefore Lin Yuan could either contract the soul thought whale, or encounter a fae that he would regret for life. Then he would comprehend the appropriate willpower rune according to the fae. Or he would contract the jasmine lily. He would search for the appropriate fae according to the comprehended willpower rune. However, if one were to really talk about these two choices, the first one was better. Now that Morbius was awake, Lin Yuan wasn't in a hurry to raise its grade. After Genius and Chimey completed their bloodline purification under the pure spiritual energy, Genius and Chimey's bloodline purification was completed. They would automatically emerge from the pile of fur. He knew that he shouldn't disturb Genius and Chimey now. Lin Yuan thought of the new thing that Morbius had mentioned. There was no need for Morbius to point it out. Lin Yuan saw a well next to the spirit pool. Lin Yuan hurriedly walked to the side of the well. Through the mouth of the well, one could see that the bottom of the well was made of dry green bricks. There wasn't even a drop of water. Morbius came to Lin Yuan's side and said with a smile, "Buddy, I think this well should be of some use to you." Morbius didn't keep him in suspense and explained to Lin Yuan. This well is called the Elemental Well. It can speed up the activation of elemental energy. Then distribute the various elemental energies evenly in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. At the same time, the well water can dissolve elemental energy. Increase the purity of elemental energy. However, the water in the elemental well isn't unlimited. The accumulation of well water requires the spiritual qi in the space to slowly replenish it. I can only replenish about half a bowl in a day. If there is a need, this elemental well can be used when executing the exclusive skill, Pure Land of Bliss. he appeared in the Pure Land of Bliss. However, it will consume a certain amount of well water every second when it appears in the Pure Land of Bliss. Upon hearing Morbius' introduction, Lin Yuan froze for half a minute. Then a look of surprise appeared on his face. At present, Lin Yuan had mastered pure elemental energy. Water elemental energy, wind elemental energy, earth elemental energy, fire elemental energy, and dark elemental energy. Water, wind, earth, and fire, these four elemental energies originated from the four elemental shellfish. The dark elemental energy came from the dark crystal beetle. There were many different types of elemental energy. For example, metal, wood, light, thunder, and many other elements. He currently had no way to prepare it. However, he only needed to find the spiritual ingredient with the corresponding attribute. Throw it into the elemental well. He would be able to obtain a highly concentrated elemental solution. The elemental well could evenly distribute various elemental energies to the surrounding environment. It made Lin Yuan feel as though the spirit lock spatial zone was at this moment. It really became a miniature world. The growth of phase couldn't just rely on pure spirit qi. Elemental energy was also indispensable. Light elemental energy was under the effect of a special fei. For example, the sun reflection monarch lotus could even simulate the illumination of the sun. If the spirit lock spatial zone continued to expand, it could be said that it could expand infinitely. With spirit qi and elemental energy, the spirit lock spatial zone was a paradise for spirit qi professionals to live in. The elemental well could allow Lin Yuan to prepare elemental solutions. The purification function of the elemental well's water allowed Lin Yuan to prepare heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. The four elemental energies with higher purity. It was the same as breaking the world's restrictions on phase. Apart from that, the elemental well's appearance also allowed Lin Yuan to have a new support function. While using the Pure Land of Bliss to heal the phase-injured roots, the elemental well could create an elemental energy supply station on the Pure Land of Bliss. Could enhance the elemental fei. Even when the enemy sealed a certain elemental energy, Lin Yuan could still create a relatively perfect elemental environment. This was an ability that even sacred source life forms didn't dare to say they had. It was an ability that encompassed all types of elemental energy. It was simply too amazing and powerful. However, the prerequisite was to constantly consume the elemental well's water. Looking at the bottom of the elemental well, there weren't any signs of moisture. Thinking back to what Morbius said, the elemental well could only produce half a bowl of well water per day. Lin Yuan felt that it would take an indefinite amount of time for the well water to fill the bottom of the well. It could be said that the appearance of the elemental well had refreshed his understanding of Morbius. Morbius was destined to have unlimited possibilities. Of course, this did not mean that the elemental pearls produced by the elemental shellfish were useless. However, the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls that contained the goddess Graupel were no longer his best means of producing pure elemental energy. The heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls were still an important bargaining chip for him to exchange for resources. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan noticed a bundle of white fur and a bundle of blue feathers in the distance. There was a sound. Next, a petite white civet appeared. A bird with pale blue feathers crawled out from the pile of hair and feathers. One nimbly scurried onto Lin Yuan's shoulder, while the other landed on his ear. He looked at Genius and Chimey. Lin Yuan was surprised to discover that Genius and Chimey's bloodline clearly did not transform. However, the changes that had occurred previously were too great. Chapter 1575. If it wasn't for the fact that he could confirm that one of the two little fellows was Genius and the other was Chimey, he wouldn't have believed it. Lin Yuan did not dare to recognize it. Cleverness and the change of sound. It was just like the changes before and after he consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Before consuming the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, the lead essence in his body had yet to be cleansed. It was inevitable that there would be a lot of impurities on the body, and the skin would not be transparent. After consuming the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, after getting rid of all impurities, Lin Yuan's aura, appearance, and figure had all undergone tremendous changes. Even his height had increased by 2 centimeters. Genius was still as white as before. It was just that before being smart it was as white as snow. There was also a hint of silver in it. The current white was similar to the white that only existed in the imagination of humans. This kind of whiteness was indescribable. Genius's originally 2 light blue eyes were like Paraíba tourmalines. But now the color of its eyes had changed. It turned into a deep blue color like topaz. There was a kind of restraint that gathered all the blue in one place. It makes the cleverness seem wiser. There were still 8 tails behind Genius. If one were to describe Genius' tail as a fox's tail, then Genius' tail looked like a fox's tail. Now his tail no longer had the swollen and fluffy feeling of a fox's tail. His 8 tails fluttered without any wind. Like 8 ribbons being blown by the wind, they became even more graceful and agile. The change in Genius was mostly in its temperament. The change in Chimey was a complete change in her appearance. Although the feathers on Chimey's body were still pale blue in color, its feathers were still azure in color. However, at every moment on Chimey's azure blue feathers, there are blazing suns rising and sinking. The sunrise and sunset alternated between Chimey's feathers. When the sun rose, Genius' feathers would turn into a gorgeous gold color. By the time Chimey's feathers turned completely golden, it was already too late. It will automatically form a glazed flame on the surface of its body. This made Lin Yuan feel that Chimey resembled the legendary vermilion bird in his previous life. However, it was different from the legendary vermilion bird. This was because a small bird like the vermilion bird possessed the power of fire. The energy that Chimey grasped was light, and it produced heat from light. This ability was similar to the mother of bloodbath's light-type Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline. They achieved the same result through different means. Chimey's entire body turned golden and glazed flames ignited around it. It reminded Lin Yuan of the legend of the Golden Crow. However, Chimey was clearly not walking the path guided by the Twilight Rune. After the sun had set on the feather, the color of Chimey's feathers will darken. This was a characteristic that Chimey had never displayed before. The cloud patterns that had faded from Chimey's body had disappeared. After Chimey's fur darkened, it once again climbed onto Chimey's body. Sound-type energy was formless and formless. Now Chimey was controlling the cloud patterns, causing them to form cloud talismans around its body. When the chi notes collided, they could produce any sound that Chimey wanted to produce. Lin Yuan immediately waved his hand and let the source sand's guard sand condense a sand wall. Lin Yuan said to Chimey, "Chimey, try to control these musical notes and use the skill-shattering sound strike." Upon hearing that, Chimey's cloud patterns collided with each other. Every time they collided, a sound awl would be produced. After the sonic awl hit the sand wall, it exploded into several smaller sonic awls. Perform a second attack and pierce. The source sand's quality had been promoted to Fantasy V. Originally, the sand wall that the source sand condensed with the guard sand could withstand the attacks of all of Lin Yuan's other phase. Every time the other phase evolved, the source sand would help them test the moves. Now Chimey was using the collision of musical notes to casually produce the shattering sound strike. It was obvious that it was not using its full strength. However, the sand wall was penetrated by the shattering sound strike for a second time and a large hole was opened. This was not to say that the source sand had become weaker. Instead, Chimey's current strength had become stronger. However, Chimey's display to Lin Yuan was far from over. A large number of cloud patterns turned into musical notes and shook off from Chimey's azure blue wings. Nearly 100 cloud patterns collided with each other and bounced back and forth as Chimey flapped its wings. Every note bounced and collided with all the other notes. A sonic awl could be produced. A dense shattering sound strike was produced. Lin Yuan thought, "This is bad." He hurriedly injected a large amount of spiritual power into the source sand. Layers of guard sand walls formed out of thin air. Lin Yuan could no longer calculate the number of shattering sound strikes that Chimey had produced. However, there were at least tens of thousands of strikes. These shattering sound strikes bombarded the first layer of the guard sand wall. They blasted the guard sand wall into sand that filled the sky. Fortunately, the shattering sound strike would shatter after the first collision. It turned into more small sonic awls that were far less lethal than the first sonic awl. However, nearly 100,000 small sonic awls bombarded the sand wall. The instantaneous explosion of impact directly blew up 17 sand walls. Inside the Spirit Lock spatial zone, sand was everywhere and it was a mess. Fortunately, all the phase in the Spirit Lock spatial zone had been protected by the barrier formed by the guard sand. Otherwise, Chimey's attack could even blow up its nest. Upon seeing this scene, Chaime's not-so-smart little brain immediately knew that it had gotten into trouble. Chaime just wanted to show off its newly obtained ability to Lin Yuan. However, it did not expect to destroy it. At that moment, Chaime did not even have the strength to apologize. This was because the collision of musical notes produced 10,000 shattering sound strikes. It consumed the spiritual power in Chaime's body. Chaime's spiritual power had already been exhausted, and it had been completely drained. Fortunately, due to the lack of spirit chi in Chaime's body, the sonic shattering strike's attack power was evenly distributed. Otherwise, tens of thousands of sonic booms would be blasted onto Kanosha. Even if it was the aftermath of the explosion, he could not block it. They had to disturb Di Wanmi, who was refining the prized artifact, so that Di Wanmi could take action to protect them. Lin Yuan looked helplessly at Chaime, whose little claws had become powerless on his ear. With a single spirit injection, Chaime was released. However, the spirit chi in Chaime's body was overdraft. Even though he had used spirit injection and obtained spirit chi, it would take some time for him to recover the activity of his cells, which had been drained of spiritual energy. Chaime, which had just recovered a little, looked at Lin Yuan apologetically. And the spirit lock spatial zone that was affected by him. He said softly, "Yuan, I'm sorry. The next time, Chaime, I won't dare to casually use a skill without understanding its might." Lin Yuan reached out and touched the feathers on Chaime's head as he said, "All right, let's go. Chaime, thanks to this, you were able to test this ability in the spirit lock spatial zone. If he had not tested it, he would have used it in battle. No matter how powerful the 10,000 shattering sound strikes were, it was just a one-time deal." Lin Yuan had grasped a variety of sword skills. These sword skills were Lin Yuan's main offensive means. Chapter 1576. Chaime unleashed an attack with all its might. It was also impossible to compare to the lethality of a sword technique. Therefore, he had already positioned Chaime as a half-attacker and half-support character. On the battlefield, Chaime could use its shattering sound to carry out offensive and control tactics. Although the broken sound strike was formless and formless. However, the Fae could sense the pressure from the sound in the air. He could still determine the location of the broken sound strike. However, Chaime could use sound shattering strike to carry out high-frequency attacks to control the opponent's movement path. If the other party wanted to force his way through, he would have no choice but to let the sound shattering strike land on his body. Furthermore, broken sound strike was only Chaime's most insignificant skill. This continued until Chaime advanced to the diamond stage and obtained the skill Melody Transformation. Only then did Lin Yuan attach importance to the sound-shattering strike. Chaime's silver skill, Bathing Light, could last for a long time. The gold skill, Sunlight Ray, could weaken the target. At the same time, it enhanced the plant phase activity. It was a perfect match for Red Thorn. The platinum skill, Nirvana Sound, could nullify death. One of them was to create a favorable environment. It was an exclusive skill to absorb the power of the sun. The current Chaime was already relatively perfect. After Chaime awakened its bloodline again, Lin Yuan was very curious. What kind of changes would occur? There were two types of phase bloodline evolution. One was to evolve according to the original bloodline. This kind of evolution wouldn't allow the Fae to evolve, changing the phase name and species. However, if the bloodline was reformed based on the original foundation, he no longer followed the original path. It was the phase name and even the phase species. It was very likely that everything would change after evolution. For example, Chaime and Genius had always been on the path of reforming bloodlines. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Genius speak. "Lin Yuan, Genius' spiritual energy has increased again. Moreover, the diamond rank spirit tail activation has undergone some changes. Smart's previous skill, Spirit Tail Activation. He had used his soul power to consume a tail. Double my soul power. It was a skill that consumed his tail to strengthen his soul power. It would hurt the source of Genius." Lin Yuan had asked Genius once. Only then did he realize that the mental energy in Genius' brain was only a small portion of its entire body's mental energy. Now the intelligent brain stored more soul energy. Genius's 8 tails were Genius's mobile psyche warehouses. It was for this reason. Only by consuming his tail could his soul power be doubled. Every time its tail was severed, Genius wanted to recover. It would take at least a few months to nourish. Furthermore, It would affect the usage of his exclusive skill interconnection tail. If too many of its tails were cut off at once, its mental strength would be severely depleted. In order to protect itself, Genius would forget part of its knowledge. These were not what Lin Yuan wanted to see. Therefore Lin Yuan had never thought of letting Genius use the diamond spirit tail stimulation. At that moment Genius continued to speak. Lin Yuan, Genius spirit tail stimulation can instantly consume its own tail. But now, Genius can use its own mental power to condense an auxiliary tail. These appendages usually don't show themselves. But every time a tail is consumed, the appendage will quickly grow and replace the severed tail. However, if I want to form a tail, Genius might consume a large amount of spiritual-type spirit materials every day. When Lin Yuan heard Genius' words, he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. If that was the case, Genius would activate its diamond rank spirit tail. He could finally use it again. Moreover, he did not need to feel any burden during the process of using it. This was because spirit tail stimulation would no longer cause any damage to Genius after it had its tail as a reserve. As for the spirit materials, the entire blissful sea tribe had been taken over by Gao Feng. Those were the bronze/epic angelfish of bliss that Lin Yuan had used to trick on. They were all sent by Gao Feng to the return from faraway manor. After Lin Yuan's spirit chi transformation, the angelfish of bliss had returned to normal. He could have as many angelfish of bliss rainbow-colored fish coats as he wanted. He wasn't afraid that cleverly would exhaust him. Lin Yuan immediately stored the 10,000 rainbow fish coats that Gao Feng had given him in the Fey storage box. He passed it to Genius. Smart, use these rainbow-colored fish cloaks first. I'll prepare more for you after I've used them up. Genius looked at the 10,000 fish coats in the Fey storage box and spoke in a childish voice. Lin Yuan, these fish coats should be smart enough to condense 2 tails. If he was smart and the other spirit chi professionals found out about it, he would definitely be punished. They would probably tremble in fear. What a wastrel. How much would 5,000 rainbow fish coats from the angelfish of bliss cost? Back when the blissful sea tribe was still around, a fish coat of such quality would be sold for at least 80,000 radiance dollars. Furthermore, he would not be scammed by the blissful sea tribe's fortune bag. If he obtained a fish card of the corresponding grade, don't even think about buying it. 5,000 rainbow fish coats would be equivalent to 400 million radiance dollars. No spirit chi professional would be able to withstand such an investment of resources. Even the descendants of the top factions wouldn't be willing to spend so much. 400 million radiance dollars would be enough to buy 10 bronze/epic phase. However, such an expenditure was considered a small matter to Lin Yuan. At that moment, the wind speed rapid antelope had also emerged from the pile of fur. Lin Yuan was surprised to find that the wind speed rapid antelope's bloodline hadn't transformed at all. His bloodline did not transform at all. He was still an antelope. The situation was truly too strange. The antelope bloodline was in the Fey world. It wasn't a rare bloodline. The wind speed rapid antelope should have long evolved or reverted to its ancestry. Could it be that the wind speed rapid antelope was going to learn from Chimey? Was he going to stubbornly walk on his original bloodline? Lin Yuan had created too many miracles when he started to enhance phase. Lin Yuan was prepared to witness the wind speed rapid antelope. What kind of surprise would it give him? The wind speed rapid antelope intimately came to Lin Yuan's side and nudged his calf. Lin Yuan rubbed the wind speed rapid antelope's head and noticed that the fur on the wind speed rapid antelope's head was very soft. It was unbelievably soft. Moreover, it was surging with extremely pure wind elements. The purity of the wind element was comparable to that of heavenly maiden-level elemental pearls. Such elemental concentration appeared on a Fey. It was simply too shocking. He planned to wait for the elemental well to produce well water. He fused some wind-type heavenly maiden-level elemental pearls into the elemental well water, producing wind elemental energy that far surpassed the limit. He wanted to see what would happen to the wind speed rapid antelope after drinking it. In any case, he had plenty of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. You can do whatever you want. Lin Yuan said softly to the wind speed rapid antelope. Wind speed rapid antelope, control the breeze and clean the spirit lock spatial zone. A cool breeze blew across the land. In an instant, the cool breeze gathered all the dust in the spirit lock spatial zone to the wind speed rapid antelope's feet. Lin Yuan was surprised to find out. When the wind speed rapid antelope executed the wind elemental ability, a majestic shadow actually appeared on its back. Chapter 1577. This majestic phantom had 4 horns on its head. The 4 corners were like branches branching out wantonly. When the wind element gathered on the body of the wind speed rapid antelope, wind elements gathered at the 4 corners of the wind speed rapid antelope's silhouette, forming flower after flower. This phantom was also in the shape of an antelope. However, compared to a normal antelope, this phantom didn't have a mouth. Wind elemental energy flowed wantonly around the phantom's body. It was as if this antelope was the wind element itself. Lin Yuan suddenly thought of a possibility. The Moon Empress had told Lin Yuan before. When the elemental energy in some phase bodies reached a certain level, they would be able to absorb the elemental energy. Elemental assimilation may occur in the body. For example, Chu Si's obsidian iron wild bull's horn was evolving into a fantasy breed. After the metal energy in his body reached a certain level, it began to divide. It allowed the bull horns to take elemental form and form freely. Right now, the wind speed rapid antelope was very suitable for this type of evolution. But there was something different. Firstly, the wind speed rapid antelope had yet to undergo elemental transformation. Secondly, when the obsidian iron wild bull's sword horn had been elementalized, the sword horn had been destroyed. No shadow appeared behind him. However, after enhancing phase for a long time, Lin Yuan understood something. That was the evolution of phase, and no one could say for sure. In the eyes of ordinary people, Class 5 creation masters had already seen the limits of the creator. However, even Class 5 creation masters were unable to enhance genius and chimey. Even if a Class 5 creation master arrived at the location of a large whale landing, they wouldn't be able to do so. If he hadn't contracted Azure Blue and Azure Blue had coincidentally obtained the skill Faith's possession, he wouldn't have been able to kill Azure Blue. No one could find the legendary Remembrance Soul Whale. Right now, the wind speed rapid antelope was still the most responsible butler in the spirit lock spatial zone. No matter how far the wind speed rapid antelope could go in the future, Lin Yuan was willing to provide the best resources. Witnessing with the wind speed rapid antelope, Chimey was still waiting for its spiritual power to recover. Chimey was going to undergo a bloodline breakthrough in a while. This bloodline breakthrough would happen before Chimey became a myth breed. The final breakthrough. It was very likely that this would be the last time before the creation of a creation seed. After a Fae became a myth breed, its bloodline would solidify. Unless there was a great opportunity, it would be very difficult for it to change again. Therefore he had to let Chimey be in peak condition. Then he would undergo a bloodline breakthrough. When Morbius advanced to the gold grade, the spirit chi concentration in the spirit lock spatial zone increased. Even Genius and Chimey's bloodline had changed. For some reason Lin Yuan had a premonition. He felt that Genius and Chimey would be in more danger after this evolution. Lin Yuan forced himself to calm down. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan decided to stop Di Wanmi, who was crafting the artifact. He was prepared to let Di Wanmi stand guard at the side. If something happened to Genius and Chimey, he would be able to provide assistance from the side. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a whale cry coming from the floating island whale embryo. He walked forward and placed his palm on the floating island whale's eggshell. He immediately sensed the floating island whale's intimacy. The baby whale in the floating island whale's eggshell kept hitting the eggshell. It wanted to touch Lin Yuan's palm. To a certain extent, the increase in the concentration of spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone could be said to be a good sign. It accelerated the hatching of the floating island whale. In the spirit lock spatial zone, there were still many heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls in stock. The increase in the concentration of spirit chi allowed the floating island whale to consume the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls more efficiently. As long as he could guarantee a sufficient supply of heavenly maiden-grade water-type elemental pearls, he would be able to do so. Before the Radiance 100 sequence, the floating island whale would be able to hatch. At that moment, Chimey was already under Blackie's spirit injection. Its body had reached its peak state. Chimey said softly to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, Chimey, prepare to evolve your bloodline." Lin Yuan knew when he saw the excited expression on Chimey's face. Chimey was most likely thinking about the fan meet and greet. Chimey was so excited because it was thinking about the fan meet and greet. The ignorant were fearless. Genius, who understood the star web, had a very serious expression. Genius knew that Lin Yuan was creating this opportunity for it in Chime. Exactly how many resources had he spent? It also understood how dangerous this evolution was for it in Chime. Genius was afraid that Chime would take it lightly. Later on, when it evolved, it would not be prepared in advance. It would be in a passive state. Smarty reminded the speaker. Chime, you must be more serious when evolving your bloodline. Try your best to endure the pain and don't let your consciousness be in a chaotic state. After hearing Genius' reminder, Chime nodded its little head seriously. Chime might not have much knowledge. However, Chime could still vividly remember how painful it was during its previous evolution. Lin Yuan personally plucked a few spirit wisdom purple zoysia and handed them to Genius. Then he said to Chime, Chime, return to the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Go and absorb the energy from the heavenly flames. I will accompany you here. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, Chime flew back to the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's nest. It no longer restricted itself and started to absorb the heavenly flames' energy. Genius used its small claws to pick up the spirit wisdom purple zoysia. It started to chomp on it. Lin Yuan had never eaten the spirit wisdom purple zoysia before, but when he saw Genius' conflicted expression, he knew that the spirit wisdom purple zoysia wouldn't taste good. Genius needed to digest the spirit wisdom purple zoysia. There was a process. Therefore, the first to evolve was Chime. The entire phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was burning in an instant. Chime's body was burning with a glazed flame that enveloped the entire phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. The leaves of the heavenly flames on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree exploded in the glazed flame that lingered on Chime's body. The energy in the exceptional flames rapidly surged into Chime's body. Chime was like a bottomless pit that absorbed the energy in the alien flames. Chime was currently screaming in pain. However, Lin Yuan could not be bothered to feel sorry for Chime. This was because he had to throw a large number of exceptional flames at the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, so that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree could replenish its energy. Otherwise, not only would the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree suffer from Chime's unrestrained demand for heavenly flames, drained and turned into dead wood, even Chime's evolution would be due to the lack of heavenly flames energy. It stopped abruptly. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan waved his hand. Hundreds of mid-level deviant flames surged towards the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. These deviant flames had just been stored in the leaves of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. The glazed flame had drawn out the energy of the mystical flame in the leaf. However, with the addition of more than 100 mid-grade heavenly flames, Chime was a bottomless pit and showed no signs of satisfaction. Such a large number of exceptional flames entered Chime's body. This made Lin Yuan even more uncertain. Chime would be blasted into pieces in the blink of an eye if such an amount of exceptional flame energy erupted. Even a myth-I Fei would have no chance of survival when encountering such a huge amount of exceptional flame energy. There was no possibility of survival. However, Chime was still showing its desire for the exceptional flame energy. Chapter 1578. As the saying goes, concern leads to chaos. He no longer knew if he should continue to provide Chime with alien flames. The scorching Chime had yet to lose its consciousness. Chime's clear voice had become extremely hoarse at that moment. Lin Yuan, the strange flame. Upon hearing Chime's request, he recalled that Chime was currently upgrading its bloodline and worked hard to evolve. Lin Yuan made up his mind and threw another 100 mid-grade exceptional flames into the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. At that moment, Lin Yuan was worried. However, compared to Chime's performance in purifying its bloodline previously, Chime's bloodline was much stronger. This time was undoubtedly much better. This was because the Remembrance Soul Whale gave Lin Yuan confidence. Even if something happened to Chime during the process of its bloodline metamorphosis, it would still be fine. Lin Yuan used the Thought Soul Whale's soul knot ability. He could also collect Chime's soul. Then the Mother of Bloodbath would use the Sacred Source Life Form, Myriad Medicinal Spring, to revive it. However, at that time Chime had to start all over again. But at the very least Chime could continue living. It was said that the greatest expectation parents had for their children was not their children's achievements. What he wanted was for his children to live in peace. That was what Lin Yuan was thinking. The 100 strange flames that Lin Yuan had invested were still not enough. Lin Yuan gritted his teeth and continued to throw in the strange flame. He even threw 5 high-grade flames into the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree at once. Just as Lin Yuan thought that the strange flame's energy was about to be depleted again, when he still needed to invest. A phoenix cry echoed from Chinese body. After the phoenix cry sounded within the spirit lock spatial zone, a suppressive aura that only phoenix-type spiritual beings had appeared. A similar situation had happened to Chime previously. However, at that time the pressure was at the level of a one phoenix. This time the pressure was clearly at the level of the main phoenix seed. Lin Yuan felt the pressure of this main phoenix species Fei and looked at Chime in a daze. Could it be because Chime stayed on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree for a long time and increased its strength? Could it be that the bloodline was advancing toward a main phoenix-type Fei? Chime was still a fantasy breed Fei that had yet to become a myth breed. A fantasy breed Fei awakening the main phoenix species bloodline had already subverted common sense. It could be said that as long as Enin accepted the bloodline of the main phoenix, it would be able to survive. It would become the lowest-ranked main phoenix-type Fei in history. This meant that the purity of Chime's main phoenix species bloodline was higher than the other main phoenix species Feis. However, Lin Yuan did not feel the slightest bit happy about this. Lin Yuan's heart thumped. He cursed inwardly. Lin Yuan knew Chime very well. Chime had the most stubborn temper among all of its Feis. Just like when he was learning to sing in order to sing a line correctly. Chime could stay awake the whole night. Most of the time Lin Yuan would wake up in the morning. They realized that Chime had fainted from exhaustion from practicing singing. The last time he had awakened the bloodline of the Luan Phoenix. Chime would use the sound bird bloodline in its body to devour the Luan Phoenix bloodline. Chime would still choose to use its sound bird bloodline to devour the bloodline of the main phoenix. But how could it be so easy to devour such a pure main phoenix bloodline? At that moment, the sound bird bloodline in Chime's body had already started fighting with the main phoenix bloodline. A handful of golden blood turned into steam and seeped out of Chime's body from its feathers. Lin Yuan's heart clenched at once. Before the first wave subsided, another wave arose. Genius, which had consumed the spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma, suddenly let out a painful groan. Lin Yuan saw Genius's 8 long tails that were fluttering like ribbons. They started to crumble inch by inch and a blood mist spread out. The spiritual energy stored in the 8 long tails instantly surged out. Just as the spiritual energy was about to affect the other life forms in the spirit lock spatial zone. Genius let out a meow. Its childish voice sounded like it was crying out blood. Genius tried its best to control the spiritual energy that was about to burst out. However, Genius's control of spiritual energy, it instantly caused Genius to lose control of its mind. Genius's spiritual energy instantly burst out violently. Previously, Lin Yuan was unable to deeply understand how massive Genius's spiritual sea was. But now, Genius's violent spiritual energy, it allowed Lin Yuan to have a glimpse of Genius's terrifying spiritual energy. This berserk mental power was like a nightmare. It was letting out a sinister roar. Once such powerful spiritual energy spread out, it would instantly invade the brains of other life forms. It would destroy the consciousness of other life forms. It would turn the entire spirit lock spatial zone into a dead zone. In the blink of an eye, the 8 long tails had already vanished to their roots. Chime's body had turned into a ball of blood again. The phoenix cry in its body didn't stop. From this phoenix cry, Lin Yuan could hear a hint of arrogance. Lin Yuan took a deep breath and summoned the Jasmine Lily. The Diamond X/Fantasy V Jasmine Lily was no longer the same as before. The bud of Mountain Jade shot out 2 healing light beams, and one was connected to Chime's body. The other was connected to Genius's body. These 2 healing light beams were used together with the exclusive skill Severed Connection. It had indeed stopped Genius's tail from vanishing. It had also allowed Chime's crushed bones to slowly piece back together. There was even a faint and weak chirping sound of a bird coming from Chime's body. The Jasmine Lily's vitality was constantly pouring into Chime and Genius's body. Slowly it was showing signs of being unable to endure. The spirit lock spatial zone had a large amount of pure spirit chi. There wasn't a need for Lin Yuan to supply it again. It was the most optimal environment for evolution. Di Wanmi followed Lin Yuan's instructions. On one hand, he concocted a spirit fluid that specialized in suppressing the phoenix-type bloodline for Xianxia. On the other hand, he concocted a spirit fluid that had the effect of consolidating spiritual energy for genius. The means of a Class 5 creation master were executed by Di Wanmi. It was indeed of great help. Lin Yuan hadn't activated the vitality imprint for a long time. As the Jasmine Lily's grade was raised to the limit of a fantasy breed Fey, the vitality in Lin Yuan's vitality imprint was now very strong. It was the highest amount of vitality he had obtained since obtaining the exclusive skill Vitality Imprint. Originally, Lin Yuan was planning to use the Vitality Imprint on the Radiance 100 sequence. It would be used to deal with the Freedom Federation's conspiracy. But now his two closest companions were in danger. Lin Yuan couldn't be bothered anymore. He immediately activated the Vitality Imprint. A green lotus pattern extended down from Lin Yuan's forehead. It spread to Lin Yuan's face. There was even a faint lotus pattern on his neck. A lotus shadow appeared beneath Lin Yuan's feet. Surging vitality seeped out from Lin Yuan's body. Under the Jasmine Lily's guidance, two lotus shadows wrapped around Genius and Xianxia. The Vitality Imprint stored a large amount of vitality. It was like irrigating a barren mountain. This barren mountain would probably immediately become lush with vegetation. At this moment, this energy was frantically pouring into Genius and Xianxia's body. It forcefully allowed Genius's broken tail to grow out bit by bit. It also allowed Xianxia's broken bones to connect back together. The meatball like Xianxia had the shape of a bird again. However, everything was far from over.